The Magic of Scheherazade is one of the most ambitious adventure games for the NES. It combines the overhead action of The Legend of Zelda with the time-traveling turn-based battles from Chrono Trigger. If you like either of those games, you owe it to yourself to give this one a try. The Magic of Scheherazade was developed by Culture Brain, the Japanese company that brought us Kung Fu Heroes, Flying Warriors, and Baseball Simulator 1000. By the 1990s, the NES had really taken off in North America, so Culture Brain decided to translate some of their older Japanese games to English. Scheherazade got more than just new text. The game received a full overhaul with changes to the graphics, sound, and even some of the maps. Considering that the game was already over 2 years old at this point, this fresh coat of paint made it look a bit less primitive. While it is certainly difficult to spell, the name Scheherazade, as well as much of the game's setting, comes from the 1001 Arabian Nights, a collection of Arabic folklore and fairy tales compiled during the Islamic Golden Age. Much like what the Brothers Grimm did for European stories, the 1001 Arabian Nights is an even larger and more extensive collection of tales from the Middle East. It includes many famous stories like Aladdin's Wonderful Lamp or Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, although those stories may not have been in the original edition. Scheherazade is cast as the storyteller in the 1001 Arabian Nights, and she is essentially a framing device used to bridge the gap between the many different stories. In the game, Scheherazade is a princess that has been kidnapped, along with her 3 sisters and their father, the king. An evil wizard named Sabaron has taken them captive and banished you, the descendant of the great warrior Isfa, into a time warp. You'll have to travel across time and space as you visit 5 different kingdoms, each ruled by an evil demon boss. While most of the action takes place in real time, you will need to recruit allies that will fight alongside you in the occasional turn-based battle. Sadly, the game was not a huge hit when it debuted in North America in January of 1990. Reviews were mixed, and despite the updates they made, it was hard to hide the fact that the game had originally released back in 1987. Culture Brain did have plans to make a sequel on the Super Nintendo called Golden Empire, The Legend of Scheherazade, but it was cancelled before it ever got off the ground. In modern times, the game has become somewhat of a cult classic and is often referred to as a hidden gem. It did not appear on IGN's list of the top 100 NES games of all time, but don't let that affect your judgment. The content of this game is top-notch, and if you're wary of the turn-based battles, the game gives you a lot of ways to opt out of them. The only real bad thing about this game is that it has just a ton of flashing screens, so if you're sensitive to that, this game would be virtually unplayable. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges the NES is notorious for. Stepping into the water is instant death, and many of the bosses regenerate health, so if you're not strong enough, they'll never go down. But what if I told you about a secret trick to start the game with 550 rupees? What if I showed you secret shortcuts that can allow you to skip large portions of the game? And what if I showed you how to defeat every boss, even the demonic abomination summoned by Sabaron himself? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out youcanbeatvideogames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. Let's get started. Alright, the Magic of Scheherazade. Before we get started here, I do want to point out that this game has a password feature, but the passwords are 43 characters long. So if you don't want to put in a very long password, you can just type in the number of the world that you want to go to, 1 through 5, and then put in the letter W, and that will take you to that world. Not only that though, it will give you full power for that particular chapter of the game. Now we put in chapter 5, so it's going to give us a maximally powered up character. And we'll see what we have here. We chose Magician, so we're going to favor wand weapons. So it's going to give us the best armor, the light armor. It gives us the maximum level of level 25. 55 troopers, which we could actually have more of, lots of items. And it will also give us the Isfa, which is the best rod in the game. And we can put that on and you can see what it looks like. So this is a maxed out character just from using a 2-digit password. Now that's a little bit like cheating. So if you just wanted to jump to World 5 but you didn't want all that power, you could use W5 instead. Now you have to enter this one 4 times. And by enter it, I mean you just key it in 1 time, and then you keep trying to make the game accept it. And this is less of a trick and more of just the game being generous to you if you wrote the password down wrong. It will send you to the world, assuming that you got the first 2 characters correct, which indicate which world you were in. As long as you got that much correct, the game will throw you a bone if you messed up the 43 character password somewhere, and will at least get you to the world that you were in. So you see we're level 20 this time and not 25. We don't have quite as good of items and troops, but they did give us a decent amount of stuff considering that they're just being generous here. So that is a nice feature of the password system. Also in the password system, if you type in sound, S-O-U-N-D, that will bring up the game's sound test. So that's pretty cool. You'll know that it worked because some numbers will appear on the right side, and you'll just kind of flip through those numbers to choose the music tracks that you want. One last password, if you put in end, E-N-D, that will show you the ending of the game. It's not going to have a lot of context if you haven't played the game, but if you really want to see the ending, well, that'll do it for you. Alright, now let's start the actual game. The game is going to ask you what name you want to be called, and it will only accept up to 4 characters, so Kylo, Renly, Baratheon won't fit, so we're just going to go with Kylo. At this point, we'll see a little bit of story, and we find out that the evil Magician Sabaron summoned a bunch of demons, and for some reason, it's up to us to clean it all up. What are we, some kind of ancient Arabian Ghostbusters? Do I look like Dan Aykroyd to you? Oh, okay. Not only that, but he sent us into a different time period and kidnapped our girlfriend. Huh. Well, normally I bet banishing somebody into a different time period would work, but we have Coronia, the time spirit, on our side, and now the game's going to ask us what class we want. You can choose any class here. It doesn't matter too much because you can change it very easily at one of the game's mosques, but it does cost you money, and you're probably going to want to be a magician pretty soon, so I recommend starting as a magician. Speaking of mosques, as you begin the game in the town of Mashudo, you'll automatically walk into the first mosque and talk to the imam there. He'll ask you if we're willing to defeat Sabaron. No, we're gonna pop out this cartridge and play Contra. Yes, we're willing to defeat Sabaron. We don't have much of a choice at this point. Alright, he tells us that we should talk to the townspeople. Normally, you would use these mosques to get your password, to change your class, or to revive any of your team members that were killed in battle. But for now, we're going to go out into the action zone and speak to the townspeople. If you pause the game, just like in The Legend of Zelda, you'll come up to a menu where you can select from items and actions and magic spells, and we only start with one magic spell, and that's the spell of Operin. Operin, whenever you cast it, could reveal a hidden stairway if there's one on this screen, and before you get worried and start thinking like, oh man, I'm gonna have to cast this Operin thing on every screen in the game to make sure I don't miss anything, well, the game will actually tell you straight up when it's time to cast Operin. Usually it'll pop up on the bottom of the screen. It will be like, hey, Kylo, you should cast Operin now. But sometimes you may need to talk to a person who will tell you to cast it. So don't worry too much about casting Operin. You'll know when to do it. And when we enter this shop, we're going to be able to do a trick. I don't think this is historically accurate, but every shop in this game is also a loan shark, and normally if you tried to borrow more than 400 rupiahs, the guy would just kick you out of the store and would also take 10 rupiah from you as like idiot tax. But if you take a debt of exactly 350 rupiah, so borrow 150, another 150, and then 50, then you'll be able to borrow an additional 150, giving you 500 rupiah in debt. Now, if you're worried about paying this guy back, don't worry about it. We're not going to pay him back. Yeah. And once we get the money, we can buy all kinds of items, make sure to get 10 bread and 10 mashroob, and get several carpets and at least 1 rupiah seed. We're going to want all of that stuff. Feel free to ask for discounts if you want to. You may get kicked out of the store, but we're buying high quantities of items, so even if you get kicked out of the store and get charged 10 rupiahs a couple times, it may be worth it. But I mean, we basically just robbed that guy for 500 rupiahs, so I mean, why don't we just ball out a little bit, you know? Throw some money around. His stuff isn't that expensive anyway. We're kinda like, hello my good man, do you see the feather on my turban? Do you think that some common rube could afford a turban this fancy? I think not. I'll take 500 rupiahs, please, and then I would like all of your food and mashrooms. I get paid on Friday. Mashrooms are probably the most important item. Whenever you run out of magic points, they will automatically refill your magic, and you'll also be able to use them in those occasional turn-based battles to make sure that your allies can always cast spells. You'll also want the breads because bread will automatically refill your hit points if you ever go below 0, so those can keep you from dying by accident. But as soon as we reach level 2, we're going to get a healing magic spell, so we're probably going to need magic more than we're going to need hit points, but we want 10 of each of those things. That's the maximum that you can hold. As we take a walk to the town of Rudoria, you'll notice that the game starts you with 2 different weapons, the rod and the sword, and those are representative of the different classes in the game. You may remember that we selected Magician at the beginning, but we could have chose Fighter or Saint, and right now, all the classes are going to seem pretty much identical. The rod is the weapon that Magicians favor, but right now we have the level 1 rod. It's the most basic version of it, and no matter what class we are throughout the game, we will have access to this rod. However, when we upgrade the wand, we'll only notice the effects of the upgrade if we're a magician, and if we upgrade the sword, we'll only notice the effects of the upgrade if we're a fighter. Saints don't notice the upgrades for either weapon, and Saints just get some special effects out of items, which probably makes them the least useful of the 3 classes. But we will have to be all 3 classes at some point, so you will get to see what each one does. Up here in Rudoria, we'll talk to some NPCs who must think that we are awfully suspicious looking because they absolutely refuse to ever turn their back on us. This guy says to use the spell of Oprah, and when we do, we find a stairway, and inside, well, it's a secret to everybody. It's 50 rupees. Nice. Over here, we can talk to some more NPCs. This guy thinks we're Isfa's descendant. I'm not sure how he figured that out. Maybe it's the feather that we wear? I don't know. You don't see too many people with feathers, so maybe it's a special Isfa thing. Up here, we can find another store. This guy sells pretty much the same items that the guy in Mishudo sold, but his cost a little bit more on average, so I recommend using the store in Mishudo instead of the one here in Rudoria. We'll head back over into the other side of town, and there's a door with no sign on it there, which usually means it's something important. There's also a secret at the bottom of a lake. Well, that's interesting. This guy's named Jad. And he's a strange guy. Now, something that you should know is that you should always trust crazy crackpots in video games. I mean, pretty much 100% of the time. This Jad guy may sound like he's nuts to the normal people around here, but to a time traveler like us, the location of a time door to the east of town, well, that's a good clue. So that's where we need to go next. Here at the local hotel, for 20 rupees a night, you can refill your health and magic. We don't really need it at this point, so we're going to decline, but if you are low, that's a good place to do it. It's much cheaper than using your bread and mushrooms. Once we exit town, we're going to head to the right, and immediately over here, we're going to get a message from our friend Coronia to use the spell of Oprah, and inside we're going to find what's called a magic field. A magic field is a place where we can plant a literal money tree that will bear money as fruit. However, we need to do it in the past, and we can only do it during a solar eclipse. So that's very specific, but you'll see what I mean pretty soon. Over here, we're ambushed by some thieves, and when we defeat them, we gained a level. So now we're up to level 2, which is excellent because we got a new spell, the spell of Pampu, and it couldn't have come at a better time because my hair is really sweaty underneath this turban. No. That's not what the spell of Pampu is for. It's not for washing your hair. No, it's a healing magic that can restore our HP. Pampu is one of the most important spells in the game. Until you get to level 21, you won't have another way to restore your health using magic, so you'll be using Pampu a lot. It only restores 10 hit points at a time, but you can just keep casting it over and over again to refill your health. Now, if you were paying attention, there was a pier to the east of the town of Rudoria, and that's where the time door is. But before we head over there, we took an optional detour to visit the town of Papanol. There really isn't anything important here in the town of Papanol, but you can meet with the fortune teller Dogos, and whew, look at her face. Yikes. And you'll get some extra clues about what we need to do. And over here, you can also hit up the casino, but the casino is probably not worth wasting your money on right now. It gives you really good odds, however, if you do it during the solar eclipse, so you'll want to come back to the casino if you do see an eclipse happen. I mean, right now you want to bet 90 rupees, we don't even have that much money. Yeah, I don't think so. For the most part, stay out of the casino unless a solar eclipse is going on. And there's also, of course, a hotel here if you need to rest. But now that we've checked out Papanol, let's go back in time. We'll equip our rod. One thing that you need to be careful with when you're using the rod is when there's a projectile on the screen, you can't shoot another one, so you need to make sure that you're aiming carefully. And I like to use the rod from the middle of the screen, so if you do miss, it doesn't have quite as far to go. Alright, Coronia told us to use the spell of Oprah, and just like Jad said, there's a hidden stairway that takes us to the time door. That's right, Marty. We've got to go back in time. So let's crank up the DeLorean to 88 miles per hour and head through that time door to go 50 years back into the past. We only went back a few decades, but 50 years in the past, the water was purple. And as we head onto this space, we hit our first turn-based battle. Now, one way you could approach the turn-based battles is to try to escape. You can try to escape one time, then you get to make a party and you can try to escape a second time. Those first 2 times are free, so the monsters won't get to attack you if you fail to escape those first 2 times, but after that you should probably stand your ground and fight. We will be fighting some turn-based battles in this game just so that we can show you how to do them, but the best way to approach them is probably to run away most of the time. On this space, we will find the magical field, and this is the back in time magic field, so this is where we need to go when there's a solar eclipse so that we could plant that money tree seed. And over here, we find the town of Rudoria, but it's back in the past. The town of Rudoria 50 years in the past is a completely different place, and one of the most important features of the town of Rudoria is the university. Now, university may be overselling it a little bit. I'd like to see their accreditation because these guys only have 3 courses and charge $20 admission fee. I don't think this place is up to the standards of community college. However, this is something that we definitely want to do, so spend your 20 rupias, and then the most important course is the Monocom course. At each university, you'll get some helpful clues that will teach you about the game's magic spells, but that's not the real reason why we're taking this course. No. The real reason why we take the courses at the university is because instead of diplomas, they hand out magic wands and scimitars. Now, at some point, they're probably going to figure out that there's not a good cost balance there. I mean, they only charge $20 to get in and $10 for the course, and then they gave me a scimitar. But if you take the Monocom course, you'll get an upgrade for your rod. And if you take the Alalart course, you'll get an upgrade for your sword. Now, if you take the Cygnus course, you won't get an upgrade for anything, so it's actually just a waste of money. And not only is it a waste of money, but there's an exam at the end. Yeah, and if you fail the exam, then the university instructor will charge you an additional 50 rupias to pass the course, and you don't even get anything for passing the course. Now let's see if we can handle this brain buster. Is it the Cygnus formation? The name of the class? Yeah, I've had more trouble solving Blue's Clues, but if you really do mess that up, that would be really bad. So in any case, skip the Signet course, take the Monocom course. If you have the money, take the Alalart course too. If you don't really care about being a fighter though, it doesn't matter. And the only other important features in this town are the mosque, where we could get our password. None of our people are dead, so we don't need that. And you can see that the password includes W1 at the beginning. That's because this is World 1, so that's why that enter it 4 times password thing works. And over here there is a shop, and this guy tells us a little bit about how the carpet item works. The carpet will take you to any town that you've already visited in the current time period, so we could not use it right now to go to Mishudo because we haven't been there 50 years in the past, but we could use the carpet to go back to Rudoria. That's the only choice we're going to have right now. Carpets are very useful items, so we'll want to make sure we keep a couple of those in stock. With our studies complete, we're going to head south of Rudoria, equipping our new flame weapon, which is a little bit better than the rod. You'll be able to have 2 projectiles on the screen now, which is nice. and we are going to be very careful not to step into the water and lose a life for no reason. So make your way down here, and I want to talk a little bit about how the turn-based battles appear. So if you look at the map, you may notice that some of the squares have a red tint to them. I added that to the map so that you can see where the turn-based battles are spawned from. Basically, those spaces are like a trap. As soon as you step onto that space, you have triggered the trap, and when you step off of it, now this is one of those spaces right here, there's a random chance that we may fight a turn-based battle as we exit this space. And we didn't hit one. So pay attention to that though, because you'll want to be prepared for when those turn-based battles happen, and make sure that you have high health and things like that before you go into them. Later in the game too, we're going to be able to use a magic spell to avoid those traps, and you need to actually cast it before you step onto the trap space. So it's pretty important to understand how it works. So as we walk to the right here, the space above this one is one of those trap spaces, so we've now sprung the trap, and no matter which direction we leave this space from, we'll have a chance of fighting a turn-based battle. So let's see if we get one. And there it is. Okay, so that's how that works. And let's actually fight this one so we can see how that goes. We're going to choose Coronia. She's the only one in our team right now, but normally you'd be able to have 3 characters. And we're going to attack. We'll have Coronia use the spell of Mai, which will disable these guys. So that guy and that guy won't be able to attack. And unfortunately, we can't choose which monster we attack, but randomly we selected a good one there, so that went well. And now we'll just finish this battle off. These are pretty easy enemies to defeat, but generally you want to avoid these turn-based battles if you're trying to play the most efficient and best way, because you're going to get a lot more experience points just by fighting the enemies in the Zelda type areas and the action scenes. You'll earn experience points much more quickly from that, and you'll also probably get money more quickly as well. The only real advantage to some of these battles is the enemies could drop an item, so that does happen occasionally, but not very frequently. And you'll see that these battles do take quite a bit of time. We could have earned a whole lot more experience points in that time, and we also exposed our characters to danger, so Coronia couldn't have been damaged before that, but she could have been killed in that battle, and then she won't even tell you when to use the spell of Operin if she's dead, and would have to revive her at a mosque. So we are exposing our characters to danger whenever we fight those turn-based battles. We did gain a level after we completed that turn-based battle, so we got a new spell, the spell of Boltor, which we're probably not going to use very much, but it's nice that we have it. And we've also reached the town of Horin. 50 years from now, the town of Horin is going to be underwater, so I don't recommend we invest in any real estate right now. But they do have a place where we can hire troopers, we just don't have the money to hire them yet. Troopers are extra characters that we'll be able to use in the turn-based battle, and you'll be able to have 4 of them in each turn-based battle, and they'll absorb some hits from the enemies, and they'll also attack. They are pretty useful for the turn-based battles, and whenever we get a lot of money, we'll be able to hire some troopers. But for now, it's just good to know where we can hire them at, so when we have cash, we know where to come back to. Seemed like a good time to use the hotel, so we did that. And over here, we can talk to some people, and when there's 2 people sitting next to each other like that, they almost always say the same thing. So keep that in mind, you don't have to always talk to those people. And this guy says he'll never leave the town, even though it's sinking. Well, I hope he has gills. Up here at this shop, this guy sells a unique item, a map, and that's going to be the map of the palace that we'll go through later. So, thanks guy. That's kind of a useful thing that you don't see in every store. And over here, we're going to find the most important part of the town of Horin, a new character for our team. That's right, Farouk is there. What's up, Farouk? Yep, it seems that he's a genie. Now, for my first wish, I wish for infinite wishes. No? No, that's not how this works? Okay, well, he did join the team, and now we actually can have a full party whenever we're in the turn-based modes. And not only that, we're now going to be able to jump into the water, but only in a very specific location. So don't think that that gives you carte blanche to go diving wherever you want. Finding Farouk was the only mandatory thing that we needed to do here back in the past. So if you want to, you could use a carpet to go back to Rudoria and then just take a walk back to the time door. But you may have noticed on the map there's something called the Mooroon Maze, and that may actually be worth investigating. It's a very small area to enter, and for doing it, we're going to get this amazing magic spell that gives us a ton of money and items. So, are you interested? I know I am. We're going to make our way to the south here, and there is the entrance to the maze. Each world has a maze like this, and some of them are optional, some of them are mandatory, but this one is pretty straightforward. Calling it a maze is almost giving it a little bit too much credit. You will notice that you could encounter some turn-based battles in here. There are 2 spaces that trigger those types of things, and we're standing on one right now. You'll have to pass through those spaces a couple times to be able to get to the end, but it looks like we lucked out. Do not walk on that water. That little strip of water is enough to kill you, believe it or not. And up here, we'll find what we were looking for, the great magic of Monocom. Unfortunately, the catch to this magic is we can only use it during the solar eclipse, but if you hang out long enough in these chapters, the solar eclipse seems to happen sooner or later. So I would expect a solar eclipse in not too long. Once we see that solar eclipse, we can use the magic immediately, although we may want to wait if we have a lot of money. We could spend that money first and then cast it. Alright, well, we hit a turn-based battle, and we're going to be able to do it now with a full team, and this team is actually a formation called the Cygnus Formation. We could use a combined team attack, but it's probably actually better to just try to turn these guys into hamburgers with the My spell so that they can't fight back, and then we'll easily be able to defeat them with our attacks. Luckily, these burgers don't bite back, and if you notice that they just have 1 health left, if you have Coronia use her rod attack, it's a priority attack, so it'll go off before anything else does and quickly clean them up. And that's it, and for all of our troubles of fighting this battle, we only get 6 experience points. Yeah, we can get 6 experience points in seconds by just fighting these enemies right here. Each one of them is worth 5 and only takes a single hit of the rod to fight. So that's the downside of those battles. Now we really need that solar eclipse so we can get our money, and then we can hire some troops up in the town of Past Horin. Well, right on cue, there's the solar eclipse, alright. So let's cast that Monocom spell. And there it is, and you may notice that there are a lot of those flashing screens in this game. There's just so many, especially whenever the bosses are being fought and you have to cast magic on them or they cast magic on you. So do be aware of that if you're sensitive to that kind of thing. There's a lot of flashing screens in this game. And after casting Monocom, you'll see that we now have all kinds of money and items. Just so much good stuff. So much money that we can't hold anymore, so we need to hurry up and spend it. That's why we're heading up here to the town of Horin. We remember that they had troopers up here for us to hire, and that's a very fast way that we can blow a bunch of money. Up here, we can spend all of our money on troopers. Don't worry about blowing your money here, because we also got 5 Rupia seeds now after casting that Monocom spell. So we're going to be able to take one of those and plant it in the magic field while this solar eclipse is still going on. And then we're going to have a rupia tree, which is going to give us even more money. So spend as much money as you can, otherwise you're just going to hit the maximum later and you're not going to get as much as you could. You'll notice we also have 15 carpets right now, which is awesome. So once you've bought a bunch of troopers, we're going to head back to the town of Rudoria, and right near Rudoria is where that magic field is. So we should have plenty of time to do this. The solar eclipse lasts for quite a few minutes. If the solar eclipse is not going on in your game, you may just want to hang out in the past and try to level up for a while until the solar eclipse happens so that you can plant this tree. Yep, you may think that as a time traveler, you would invest in cryptocurrencies, or maybe buy some stocks, or bet on sporting events that you knew the outcome of, but nope. We're gonna plant a money tree, and that's just how things work in this game. Once the money tree is planted, all we need to do is head back to the time door. There is a monster trap screen here, so we could hit an encounter here. We did not. And we'll cast the Magic of Oprin and head back to the future. So this is the basic pattern that we're going to follow for each chapter in the game. We'll start out in one time period. We'll need to find a time door where we'll travel to a different time period, take care of something there, and then usually we'll return to the original time period where we'll find a palace and fight the demon boss. Now that we're back to the present, we want to go and find the magic field so that we can harvest our rupia tree, and if you remember, it's right over here to the left. We're going to get 650 rupias for planting this seed, which is pretty good, but it's not as good as casting that monocom spell. Unfortunately, you lose the monocom spell after you cast it, but if you're feeling very greedy, you could go back to the Mooroon maze, speak with that wise man, and he'll teach it to you again. You'll have to figure out a way to spend the money after each casting, or it's kind of pointless, and you will not be able to go back to that cave after we complete Chapter 1. So if you want to max out your troopers or do whatever with your money, now could be a good time to take advantage of Monocom. We're going to stop here in the town of Rudoria to use the hotel, and then we'll be moving on. After a good night's rest, we'll be ready to make our way towards the end of this chapter, but we could stop over in the city of Popinol real quick and try out their casino while the solar eclipse is still going on. So we'll head over that way. To avoid enemy encounters, we could use a carpet to go to the town of Popinol, but we just hired a whole bunch of troopers, so if we do meet a turn-based battle, it might be nice to see those guys in action. So as we make our way over to the right, we're going to head up here, making sure to avoid the water. And this is a monster trap square, so we may see an encounter, and we do, right here. So let's fight these guys. You may want to try to escape from them. You do get 2 free escapes, but we're going to make the Cygnus formation. And since we're in a formation, we could use a combined magic attack, but if we do that, our troopers will not get to fight, and we did want to see what they can do. Now, those guys used their combination attack, which didn't deal a lot of damage to our team, so that was pretty good for us. It also is going to make it so the enemies don't do any other attacks this round. Coronia's rod attack is not very damaging, but Farouk is very good in the turn-based battles. He actually gets 2 attacks instead of 1. Our main character finished off that guy, and now there's only 1 enemy left, who will probably be mostly defeated by the troopers. You'll see the troopers get priority over our characters when they attack, so they'll do their attacks first. Well, I took one of our troopers out, that's unfortunate, but we have a lot of them and they're kind of expendable. Whenever we get to the next turn-based battle, we will still have 4 troopers. A new one will just replace the one that died, and we actually got a free magic carpet for that, which Unfortunately, I don't think we can hold, so it was kind of for nothing, but you can see how much more effective your team can be now that we have those troopers. Although if you're going to be using the combination attacks for the formations, the troopers are not as useful in that case. We are just taking an optional detour here in the town of Papanol to use this casino. Our odds of winning at the casino are much better during the solar eclipse, so let's check it out. We only have to bet 10 rupees this time, so that's nice. And we need to choose which animal we want to bet on. Well, there's no point in betting on cat heads, so let's see if penguins can win for us. Come on, penguins. Big money penguins. We got this. Not looking good. Okay. Alright, well, there you go. We won. Penguins did it. Because of the solar eclipse, we were much more likely to win, but we don't really need that much money right now. The casino is a fun diversion, but not really worth our time. There's much better ways to make money in this game, believe me. We need to make our way to the upper right corner of the map, and if you're looking at it, you'll notice that all 3 squares there are tinted red, so there's a very good chance that we're going to take 1, 2, or even 3 encounters as we make our way to the cape. But it seems that we got through the first one, but not the second. Alright, this is going to be pretty easy, especially now that we have the troopers. Each trooper hits for about 2 damage each round, and there's only 9 health worth of enemies out there right now, so troopers should be able to clean this up quite quickly. Yep. And with Farouk, Koronia, and our main character still having a chance to attack, these enemies don't have a chance. And that was actually a pretty easy battle. Didn't really cost us anything to do. And once we get out of this screen, we'll be past the encounters, but no, we have to take 1 more. There's a lot more enemies this time, but we shouldn't be worried about it. This team, with all the troopers we have, should have no problem fighting these guys, even in this amount. So we're not going to do anything differently. Unfortunately, we cannot direct which enemy we attack. So we're kind of randomly attacking the enemies, which is not always the most effective way of doing things. Like, it would be better if Koronia had hit one of the enemies that had 1 health there and killed it, but, you know, that's just not something we're in control of here in the Magic of Scheherazade. You can see that even though there were a lot more enemies this time, they really weren't very effective against us, and didn't even kill a single trooper. And we'll easily be able to clean up this battle from here. Each trooper attack should take out 1 enemy, so they probably won't survive the troopers. Yep. And that's why we pay them the big bucks. And the meager 12 experience points that we got for that battle was enough to put us up to level 4. Nice! We learned the spell of Deafening at level 4, which is a defensive buff that we can cast. It actually lasts a decent amount of time, so it's a spell that we should probably use often, and I probably don't use enough. It's okay to swim here. This is the only place where it's okay to swim in water. Make your way over here to the sunken town of Horan. If you go to the left in the water, we'll reach the Aqua Palace, and we're not quite ready for that yet. We can't enter it without Kibabu. Here in the town of Horan, the mermaids will give us some clues about things that we'll need to know in the Aqua Palace. One of the things that they tell us is that we want to pound a horn into a statue. So that's something that we'll need to do in the palace, although it's optional. And here we'll meet up with Beckel. Beckel said he was never leaving the town, and well, I guess he didn't. I don't know how he learned how to breathe underwater, but yeah, he sure showed everyone, didn't he? Down here we can buy some items. This guy has some different stuff. He has keys, and keys are not as important in this game as they are in the Legend of Zelda. not even close. You will use a key maybe just a couple times. They're usually only needed whenever you're backtracking. Now, these guys say that Kibabu is a bit of a square, and, well, based on her question, have you ever tried to pick up a girl at a hamburger shop? Man, Kibabu, what did your ex-boyfriend do to you that made you ask such a specific question? No, I don't troll for ladies at McDonald's. Now, if she'd have asked about the single moms at Pizza Hut, I might have had to lie. Make sure to tell Kibabu no, and she will join your party, and you're going to need her and her mirror shield as we move forward. Inside the door up here is another place where we can hire troopers, and we have a bunch of money to blow, so yeah, we might as well hire some troopers. If you do lose all your lives in this game, you will lose half of your money, so you might as well spend money when you have it. You don't want to be stuck holding a whole lot if you die. And we have enough troopers now, and you may have noticed that there was a stairway on this screen that we've been walking past several times. Well, if you go up those stairs, it'll take you back here outside of the water. So that's how you get out of the water, and it's also kind of a shortcut to get over to the palace, which is right to the left of this screen. There it is. With Kibabu in our team, we'll be able to enter the palace, so make sure that we have our flame weapon equipped. And it's time for the Chapter 1 Palace. If you look at the map of the palace, you will notice that some of the screens are tinted red, so you could encounter turn-based battles in here. Be careful of that, and make your way up through this door. You'll be able to use your rod to destroy the house that these he-bulls come out of, but you'll need to use your sword to actually fight the bugs themselves. If you pause the game, you'll notice the map that we bought is active, and it has a star on it that indicates where the boss is. And yes, you'll see that this scimitar is our best bet for taking out those he-bull enemies, or you can just try to avoid them. Make your way up here and head over to the right. This is an enemy trap space, so we may hit a monster encounter as we exit this screen. We'll see if we do. We're going to head out through the bottom, and yep, it's a Meldo. These guys are actually very easy, so we might as well fight them. Using our formation, we can use our combined magic attack of Gigatorn. Gigatorn will quickly take out these Meldos, and it has priority over any other attacks, so we'll get to attack first and the enemies won't attack us back. So if you do meet up with the Meldos, you may just want to use your Gigatorn and take them out. In here, we'll pass through a door. That's a door that you would need to use a key if you went back through. So keys are mostly used for backtracking in this game, but if you go the right direction, you won't really need to use keys for most of the game. Head up here, and then make your way to the right. Another monster encounter, and this is another easy one. Once again, we'll use our Cygnus formation. We are going to make one small change to our attack strategy this time. Instead of fighting, we're going to have Farouk cast the spell of Gilzade, which is essentially a fireball spell, and it's also a spell that this particular type of enemies can use against us. And well, there it is right there. It's actually one of the best spells that it could have used, so it's kind of annoying that it took out one of our troopers, but when Farouk uses Gilzade against these guys, he's almost guaranteed to kill one of them. With only one of these enemies left, our remaining troopers should easily be able to clean them up in the next round, so we shouldn't have to worry about any other of our troopers dying. And hopefully this will be the last encounter that we have to face here in Chapter 1. If you look along the path on the map, there's only one more red square that we have to pass through. Hopefully we'll get lucky this time and not get the encounter. As you head through this room, make sure that you don't walk into the water. Just give it plenty of space, and remember that the water is instant death. Just make your way down into the right here. No need to worry about gaining levels at this point. Level 4 is plenty high enough for defeating the boss. You'll probably be able to win at level 3, but level 4 is even better. In this room, we can use a horn. If you use a horn on this statue, you won't have to fight it, and the door will just open, and we'll be able to move on. We only need to pass through a couple more rooms, and then it'll be time for the boss. So we're going to want to heal ourselves with our Pampoo magic before we go in here, and then we're going to equip Boltor 1. Boltor 1 is offensive magic that we're going to be using against the boss. This is Gilga. Gilga has two forms. The first form is just a bunch of eyeballs, so whenever a lot of the eyeballs are all the way open, that's when you want to start casting your Boltor magic, and just keep casting it until most of the eyeballs are gone. If you run out of magic points and you don't have mash rubes to use, you could try to fight them with your flame weapon, and you're going to see very quickly against this boss why we didn't want to be a fighter or a saint, because we wouldn't be able to take advantage of our ranged weapon attack, and you can see that we can't walk all the way up to those eyeballs to hit them with a scimitar. So yeah, we really need to use a rod weapon, and if we were a fighter or a saint, would be stuck using the level 1 rod against this guy, which would make it a lot harder. Once you get to the second form, I like to take out the middle one while trying to avoid those shots. Just step to the side every once in a while and you'll be able to avoid them. And then take out the two eyes on the side, and that will be it for Gilga. Gilga's pretty easy if you're level 3 or higher and you're a magician with the flame rod. And you'll notice that we reflected that magic, but we still took damage. If we were a saint, it would have prevented all of the damage. So that's one of the things that a saint does, but we still will prefer to be a magician here. And finish them at a lower level. You can gain multiple levels at the end of each chapter. And well, now a message from our good friend Sabaron. Hey Sabaron, you did this, you're the one that summoned all these demons, and we're just fixing your problem, alright man? Well, that's the end of chapter 1. It's time to move on to chapter 2, The Desert World Alalart. We spent a lot of time in chapter 1, so if you want to take a big shortcut in chapter 2, you can head right over to the left at the very beginning of the chapter. Over here, there's a Lost Woods type area, if you remember the Legend of Zelda. This area will continue to repeat over and over again, but if you know the way, if you go right, up, up, left, left, and then you'll know you're in the right place because it will look a little bit different. Then you just have to go up, and that will take you to the town of Sudari. And from here, you can go all the way to the palace of this chapter and fight the boss. Now, you're going to need to be level 7, so you need to find a place to grind a couple levels before you beat the boss. But you don't have to do anything else in this entire chapter if you don't want to, and you really won't be heavily penalized for not doing it. The game will give you the characters that you're supposed to have after you finish the palace. Just remember though, you're gonna need level 7. This is you can beat video games though, so I am going to show you the way to beat this entire chapter, but wait until you see how much stuff you can actually skip by using that shortcut. It is gigantic. This is the town of Alalart, and I like how this character makes fun of the fact that these two characters sitting next to each other in almost every town say the same thing. We're hearing a lot about a demon named Curly, and that's going to be the boss of this area. And we're also going to find out that if we go to the west, we're going to reach the Maze Desert, and that's that desert that we saw before. Normally, to get through that desert, you would need a flying monkey character to join your party named Supika. Up here is the mosque. We can get the password there if you want it. And over here, these people have a few more interesting clues. This guy tells you that when you're in the desert, you'll actually be losing hit points just for being out there. So that's dangerous. And that old man tells us about Supaka. So Supaka is a character that we're going to recruit here in Chapter 2. But if we wanted to skip over that maze desert because we already knew how to get there, we wouldn't have to recruit him and would just get him when you finish the chapter anyway. You will need to rescue a character called Epin, but you'll be able to do that in the palace. If you used up any of your breads or mushrooms while you were fighting the last boss, make sure to replenish them at the store. And instead of going to the left this time, we're going to head to the right. Now, this looks like it's another maze desert, but it's actually not. If we head all the way up here and one screen right, so pretty close to the top, but we want to go over at least once, so we'll head over here. And then go up another one. We'll hit this screen that has like a dragon skull on it, and Coronia will tell us we should use the spell of Oprin. And inside we'll meet a wise man who will give us a great magic called Raincalm. Now, much like all of the other great magics, if you try to use it, it doesn't work unless there's a solar eclipse going on. Whenever there's a solar eclipse, we can cast Raincalm, and Raincalm will turn this desert into an oasis, and will no longer take damage whenever we're walking through here, and we also will almost fight 0 monsters. There may be an occasional one that could sneak through, but for the most part we'll be able to avoid them all. And what we want to do after we get Raincalm is head to the upper right corner, where we'll find a new village, the village of Copans. In this town, we're going to meet a new character that we'll eventually be able to recruit, and it's not the flying monkey Supaka that everyone's been talking about. No. You may be surprised considering this game's theme, but it's actually a robot named Gun Mecha. Now, this woman, she thinks that we said fried monkey. No, flying monkey. We were looking for a flying monkey. Oh, man. Alright, well, that guy is clearly not the guy that we were trying to talk to. And yeah, here's where the robot is. Gun Mecha, for some reason, has the symbol for Japanese money, the yen, on his chest. I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess he's all about the Yenjamins or something. But yeah, he doesn't ever talk about money. There's another character that insists on being paid, but it's not actually Gun Mecha. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but that guy tells us that we need to go into the past to meet Supaka. Up here, we can purchase a Rupia seed at this store if we need one. We're hopefully going to be able to plant the Rupia seed again whenever a solar eclipse happens. So we'll like to take advantage of that and make sure we have at least one seed in our possession. Once you're done in the town, make your way south. And although this desert seems similar to the one that we were in before, there is a potential monster encounter in the middle, so watch out for that. Also, if you see these enemies just sticking their tails out of the sand, you're only going to be able to damage them using a sword weapon, and considering we're not a fighter, we probably don't want to mess around with those guys, so you should just try to walk past. Now, if they're bouncing out of the sand like this, you can try to take them on as a magician. You will be able to damage them as long as they're completely out of the sand. But these guys are kind of annoying, so I recommend at least using your Deafening magic so that you can protect yourself. Sometimes they just seem to bounce right on top of you or appear out of the sand right underneath you. So that's kind of annoying. And it does take a good number of hits with your rod weapon to defeat these guys, so you may even want to consider just switching over to the sword even if you are a magician. It's up to you. I recommend just trying to avoid encounters with these guys. There will be a lot better places in this chapter to level up, but we are trying to reach that goal of reaching level 7. If we don't reach level 7, we're gonna die. Remember that just hanging out in the desert is dealing us damage, so you need to use your Pampoo magic occasionally to get your HP up. You need to be especially careful whenever you're stepping out of the monster trap space, because if you lost a lot of HP in the desert and then you have to fight a turn-based battle, you might end up losing a life over that. Down here in the lower right corner is the time door. Alright, Coronia, it's time to go back in time. We gotta go back in time. Dun, 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 dun. Over here in the ancient past of Alalart, you'll notice that the desert isn't here. It's actually a lush forest. Nice. And if we head over to the right, we'll meet an unusual feature, a place where we can freely refill our magic points. Considering we have the Pampoo spell, that means that we can also freely refill our health by just filling it up with magic, and then using this space you have to step right in the middle of the Star of David there, and that will restore your MP. And if you walk off the screen and come back, you can do it again as many times as you need to. So this is not a terrible spot to try to level up if you want to just fight these enemies right here. These guys are not actually thieves, they're fauna demons that are disguising themselves as thieves. So you need to be careful, those guys will try to shoot at you, but remember, you can use your healing magic as much as you want because there's an MP square right above you. Now, once you're done over there, we're already at level 6 and we only need level 7 to beat this boss, so we're doing pretty good on levels right now. We're going to head down, and there's not a whole lot going on in the lower right corner of the past of Alalart. So what we want to do is when we get to this screen, we're going to head over to the left, and then we're just going to keep going to the left until we can't anymore, and then we're going to go up. And that will take us to the city of Alalart. The path forks here, we want to head to the left. And there's a new enemy here called a Gull, that's that plant enemy, and strangely, whenever we defeat the demons, the plants don't cause the music to change, so whenever they're the only enemies left, we get the normal music back. Pretty strange. We're going to head over to the left, and then we're going to head up here. The next space is a monster trap, so we've just sprung the trap. And we may hit a turn-based encounter whenever we leave this screen. So you'll see that this screen has a red tint to it on the map. That's because it could trigger a monster encounter. Let's see if we hit one. I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to. Alright, it doesn't matter which way we exit. Yep, here it is. Now remember, if you don't want to fight these guys, you can try to escape twice for free. But these guys should be pretty easy to defeat using our Cygnus formation. What we're going to do this time is just fight. We're going to use the rod, and we're going to use Gil's aid with Farouk. We want to make sure that our troopers are able to get involved here. They're going to put out a good 8 damage against these guys, so that is quite awesome. Farouk hits that guy. Okay. Well, didn't take out one of our troopers, so it was sort of a waste for him. Sometimes this enemy will start flying, and then the only thing you'll be able to hit it with is magic attacks. So that's why we were using Gil's aid, and we should always use Gil's aid with Farouk just to be safe, because if that guy does start flying, our troopers are going to miss. So that's an important tip if you're fighting that team. Alright, we made it to the town of Alalart. Let's head on in. We are going to quickly find out when we get here, though, that the people don't speak English. Instead, they speak a strange language that goes like pecky pecky pecky, as though there's some kind of odd Pokemon. However, the shopkeeper does speak English, and although he sells a map, we do need to spend our money carefully here, because one of these characters should tell us that we should use the spell of opera in here, but they're not speaking our language. But if we know that, we can enter the university, and yeah, I do have some questions like, do my credits from Rudoria University transfer over? But the important thing here is that we take the Raincom course, because that is the one that's going to give us the Stardust, and that's an upgrade for our rod weapon. Now, if we take the Libra course, that's going to give us an upgrade for our sword, so if you have the money, you should probably take the Libra course, but it's very important that you take the Raincom course. This one has another one of those exams, and remember, the name of the course is the Libra course, so that's going to be the answer when we get to the exam. Yeah, I'm not sure about the quality of these classes here. I'm not even sure that we should take their advice. Alright, well, we got the Dragoon, which is a new upgrade for our weapon. And now we can move on. We do want to head all the way to the left, though. It's important that we trigger an event with Coronia, yes. Coronia now says that she met a translator robot, so that's important. And we should talk to this guy too, who also says pecky pecky pecky, but we'll be able to talk to him properly soon. Because of the high cost of education in this country, we can't afford room and board at the hotel right now, but that's okay. We will be able to get a refill on our magic points right before we hit the time door, and if we need to revive any of our dead friends or get the password, we can stop up here at the mosque. On our way out, we can head back through. We don't have to talk to any of these people. Remember, they don't speak our language. And we're going to make our way back to our own time. Of course, we're going to equip the Stardust now, so we now have a nice new weapon as a magician. And remember, as we pass through this space, the next space that we enter could be a monster encounter because we're in that monster trap square right now. And we did not trigger a monster encounter this time. Alright, we're fighting these guys. These are good for experience points. And we also got a nice money bag, which gives us 20 coins. Pretty sweet. Those single coins are only worth 1, so yeah, the money bag is worth 20 times that. Very good. And we're gonna head over to the right here, fighting these fauna demons in disguise. Looks like we need to use our Pampoo magic a little bit. You don't want to waste your breads if you don't have to. You also don't want to waste your mushrooms, considering that we're very close to the MP square, so if we can make it that far, we should try to do that. But don't be afraid to use some of your Pampoo magic. And there's some galls, so take those out. They take quite a few hits with the rod, but we've just leveled up to level 7, and now we have the level that we need to beat the boss, and the key here is we got the spell of Flammel 1, and that's why we needed level 7 in the first place. The only way to damage this boss is to use that magic spell, and that's the way we're going to be able to clear its first form. So if we don't have Flammel 1, we're going to be in trouble, and that's why we need level 7. So now that we have it, we don't really need to level up anymore here in Chapter 2. So we're doing pretty good. Alright, we did a nice refill there at the MP spot. And now we're going to go back to the time door so we can return to our current time. Should we be concerned about the butterfly effect? I mean, we were killing people left and right back here in the past, and we interacted with a ton of people in that town. We even took multiple courses at the local university. Well, I sure hope when we get back to the present, everybody doesn't have like 3 heads or something. Let's cross our fingers. Yeah, normal old desert. Seems like we dodged a bullet there. We could use a magic carpet to go back to the town of Copans, which is where we're headed, but it's not very far away from the time door, although we will have to pass through at least one monster trap space, so we may encounter a turn-based battle here. Oh, okay, there it is. The Basido Squad. Alright, Basido Squad. We can only make one formation right now, so we'll make Cygnus. I always just say no when it asks if you want to serve again because we have a lot of bread and mushrooms and it just kind of divvies them out evenly. What we're going to do is we're going to focus a lot of our attacks on the enemy that has more hit points because the troopers are less likely to be able to take that one out in the first round. So here's our troopers there. See, the troopers just took out the enemy on the left, so that's why we were concentrating our fire on the enemy on the right that had more hit points. You'll notice that the troopers will tend to attack enemies in a even distribution. And now that we're past that screen, we'll just walk right up here and we'll be at the town. Nice. Now you know what we need to do here? We need to go talk to Gun Mecha. If Gun Mecha would have just let us talk to him for a few minutes before, we could have explained to him that we had time traveling abilities. Yeah, he's super excited to join us now that he knows that. Well, if you wouldn't have kicked us out so quickly before, you would have known, Gun Mecha. In any case, very excited to have a robot on the team. I mean, how are these monsters gonna stand up to a robot named Gun Mecha? This guy's a monster. Alright, we're just gonna make our way back to the time door now, so just head back down the desert, you know what to do. While we'll only need to have level 7 to beat the boss of this area, getting to level 8 is probably not a terrible idea. Of course, we don't really need to go much higher than that, and we can take advantage of getting some free levels whenever we beat the boss. So if you can beat the boss at level 7 or 8, we'll be able to get a few free levels and automatically get to 10 before chapter 3. But if you make it to level 8 before we get to the boss, I mean, that's just going to help you out and make it a lot easier. We're going to use the spell of Oprin here. I know that they took some time to animate this whole time door thing, but we do have to go through it a lot of times, and it actually takes a while. It seems like they should have given us a way to skip this. We're falling into a vortex. Alright. Now back in the past, and don't forget, if you want to refill your magic points, we can do that for free over here on the right. That's why we're being a little bit reckless right now. Oh, and the money bag, that's going to be helpful. Thanks for the money, you guys. Try to grab this coin. Sweet. And we'll pampoo ourselves until we're at full hit points. And then we'll fill up here at the Magic Star. Alright, Magic Star. Got it. And we're just going to use a carpet now. That'll take us right over to the city of Alalart. And we'll skip through a bunch of walking. Now that we have Gun Mecha with us, we're suddenly going to be able to talk to people. So that's pretty cool. So make sure to turn on your speak skill. You'll need that to be able to talk to people, obviously. And yeah, now we'll see some translations. Great. I'm not sure why we couldn't have had maybe the shopkeeper translate for us. I bet he would have done it for money. I mean, you know, as long as he doesn't want to talk about that debt we have. Yeah, we're not talking about the debt. There's no debt. I don't know what you're talking about. Yep. That was somebody else. Another guy with a turban that had a feather on it. I hope that Gun Mecha isn't disappointed that he came all the way back to the past so he can hear people gossip about how big of a cheapskate this guy Law is. He also has a big ego, so when he asks you if you think he's stingy, just tell him no, and he'll give you a pair of magic boots. If you're a saint, the magic boots will actually prevent you from taking damage whenever you step on certain floor tiles that normally would hurt you. So that's what those are for. But now that you've talked to Law, Supika will join us when we meet him. It also seems that the eclipse is going off, so we have a couple things that we want to do. And you can see that that man would have told us where the hidden entrance to the university is, So luckily we knew that already before we came here the first time. Alright, we want to make our way to where the magic field is, and if you look on the map, it is in the lower left corner. So that's the way that we're going to head. We're going to go left one screen and then just make our way all the way down to the bottom. And that's where we're going to be able to plant our seed so that we'll be able to harvest some money in the future. As we make our way down to the bottom, the next to the last space is an enemy trap square, so we're in it right now, and we may get an encounter as we exit this one. And there it is, but we wanted to see Gun Mecha in action anyway, so let's see what he can do. We'll choose Farouk and Gun Mecha, and let's go to battle. So we're going to focus most of our attacks on the Corsa. We'll have Farouk attack the Amories just in case the troopers aren't able to finish him off. That should make sure that we're able to kill at least one of these two enemies in this round. Alright, the Magic of Seal didn't work on us. Nice work. And, well, we haven't killed anything yet. Alright, that's good. And only one hit point left. Yeah, this is going to be pretty easy. Got him. So yeah, Gun Mecha has a lot of strong abilities, and his attack's not bad either. Alright, we're going to use the Magic of Oprin here. And that will reveal the magic field. And since we're in the past, and this is the solar eclipse, now is the time to plant. Alright. Yeah, sure we'll plant it. Why wouldn't we? Alright, it's going to take a long time, but yeah, I think we have the time. We can wait. We're going to travel back to Alalart, and that will get us closer to where we need to go, although the time door is a little bit of a hike from here. We don't want to waste a lot of time during the solar eclipse. It would be nice to be able to get back to the present so we can cast that Rain Calm spell and see what that's all about. Of course, from here it is a pretty easy walk. We're just going to head all the way to the right, and then we're going to go up one space and then head back to the left, where we'll be able to go up, and that's where the time door will be. If you want to refill your magic points, you can head over to the right, but that seems kind of unnecessary at this point, so might as well just make our way back to the present. Here we go. Spell of Oprin. Let's go! Whenever we get back to the present, we can cast that Rain Calm spell. You should be aware, though, that the Rain Calm spell has a time limit on it, although it does last for quite a long time, so if you want to wait to cast it until a little bit later, you can, but I don't really see the reasoning. You certainly don't want the eclipse to run out before you cast it. Alright, you'll also get your health back, which is nice. And now the desert is green. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you got to see that spell in action. We didn't really have to do that right at that time, but we were probably going to run out of solar eclipse if we went into this chapter's maze, which is the next thing that we actually need to do. Because the maze, that's where Supaka is located. So now that we're done with our little detour here, we're going to head back to the town of Alalart, and we're just going to start making our way back towards where that magic field is. So you can see that the solar eclipse is over now, and everything is back to normal. So we wanted to make sure that we got that in there, otherwise you wouldn't have been able to see Rain Calm. I wanted you to see what it did. And we do have another battle to fight. Could try to escape. Remember, the first two escapes are a free roll, but let's try our Libra formation. This one uses Gun Mecha and Kibabu, and if we combine our powers, the troops won't get to attack, but you can see that it actually kills a lot of these enemies automatically. Now, that spell is called Money Burn, Be super concerned if enemies ever use Monty Burn against us, because it may actually auto-kill one of your characters, and that could be a disaster. So that's one of the reasons why, especially later in the game, we're going to want to avoid these turn-based encounters, but for now we're doing good. Alright, we finished that turn-based encounter. This is the maze of Chapter 2, and this is where we're going to find Supaka. You want to start by going up and making your way to the right. That's kind of the key here, then you'll just be able to follow the path around. Now, there is an enemy trap screen on the far left side, and there's also one over on the right, so we're in it right now. Are we going to hit one? Of course we are. We seem to hit one almost every time. It is possible to manipulate that if you're really good at the game, but that kind of goes beyond the scope of what we're trying to do here. Alright, we're just going to attack this guy. There's only one enemy here. It should be very easy with 4 troopers to take out a single Medusa. I'm not very worried. Oh, full score 3, seriously? Well, that was pretty mean. Yeah, I mean, we took some damage for sure. 4 whole damage. Alright, we got this. And one more. There it is. When we get out of here, we need to be very careful in the next corridor that we're coming up to, because there are some hidden pit traps. And you see that brownish texture in the background? We're going to use that as a guide. So the second one on the right, we want to stay right behind it, and that's where we cut over to the left. Do the same thing here. Go all the way up until you almost get to where that brown rocky texture is on the right side, and that's where you cut over to the left. If you do it correctly, you won't fall into any pit traps. If you do fall into a pit trap, you have to start this whole maze over again, and you don't want to do that. But once you have Supaka, we're going to come down here, and you want to intentionally fall into the pit trap, because that takes you back to the beginning, and that's an easy way to get out of here. See, that's where you would have fallen if you accidentally fell into one of those pits. So make sure to use that brownish rocky texture in the background. That is the key. You need to stay right before it. Don't go all the way up to it or you've gone too far. That's where you want to cut over to the left both times. Alright, now we're out of the maze and we are back to Alalart, and we need to make our way back to the time doors so that we can get back to our normal time. We have certainly fought more difficult enemies than this, so I'm not super worried about this battle. And now that we have Supaka on our team, he is going to be able to lead us through that Lost Woods type area on the left side of the city of Alalart. So now we'll be able to get through. And you can see that we would have been able to avoid all of this stuff if we just took that shortcut at the very beginning. We just would have needed to figure out a way to get to at least level 7 so that we'd be ready for the boss. We'll get our whopping 17 experience points, and then we're going to make our way to the right as we always do. So go all the way to the right, then of course up one screen, all the way to the left, and up one again to where the time door is. We'll stop maybe and refill our magic here just in case. Whenever we get back to our normal time, it should still have the Raincom spell active, so that'll be nice. And we're going to want to go back to the town of Kopans because we need to collect our Rupia tree that we planted. So we don't want to forget about that. And it's closest to the city of Kopans, although it's not very far from Alalart either. It's 6 of one, half dozen of another. So as soon as we get back, we'll take a carpet so that we don't have to go through that first part of the desert. And we'll use our spell of Oprah here, and let's do the time warp again. Back to our present time. Alright, so once we get here, we're going to use a carpet and go back to Kopans. And from there, we're just going to go one space to the left, and we just want to head down a couple spaces And Coronia will tell us where to use the spell of Opryn, and that's where we'll be able to collect our money. Oh yeah, time to get that cheddar. Alright, here it is. A secret entrance, well how about that? Who knew one would be there? Yeah, it turned out good. As it always does when you plant it during a solar eclipse in the past. Yeah, that's just how things work in this game. Alright, now that we have our money, and we have quite a bit of it at this point, we can head back to the city of Alalart and make our way towards the end of this chapter. It's just a short walk over to the left and then down to the bottom left corner of this map. But if you want to take a carpet, that'll get you there quickly as well. We are very flush with money, so if we want to buy more carpets, we certainly can afford them at this point. Alright, here is the town of Alalart. And we're just going to walk by it for now, and head back over into the desert. And this time we have Supika with us, so he'll tell us how to get through the maze desert. Watch out for these Kurls, they're really not worth fighting. And now we're going to follow Supika in the desert. Oh, this way, okay. And then up, and up again maybe? Yeah, we kind of knew this already, Supika. But thank you for showing us the way. This is normally how you would figure it out. And that's going to take us out near the town of Sudari, and we'll actually stop in here this time. We definitely do not need to stop in here for any real reason, but we did just get a whole lot of money, and this is a place here in this time where we're able to hire troopers. So if we use our spell of Opryn right here, well, here's a good place to spend all that cash we just found. We might as well spend a bunch of it. If you don't have a full supply of mushrooms or bread, there is a store in this town that sells those, so you should max those out before you start hiring more troops. I mean, they are only useful in the turn-based battles, and we're mostly playing in the action scenes, like, 95% of the game. So we need to make sure that we're good for that more than the turn-based battles. Of course, the mushrooms and the bread are just as useful in turn-based battles as they are in the action scenes. And if we head into this secret entrance, you may think that we're going to find a university or a store or something, but no, there's just more people to talk to down here. And, wow, we surprised that guy. I guess he doesn't get a whole lot of visitors down here in the basement. There's not a lot more to see, but some of the people down here do have some clues for us, and there is a casino if you're feeling lucky. Down here in the basement is also where we'll find the store. So I don't know if that's prime real estate for a storefront, but I guess they're near the casino. Maybe they get a lot of customers from that. Make sure that you have 10 mushrooms. Mushrooms are by far the most important thing for this boss because it's going to involve us spamming some spells, so we need to make sure that we have enough magic points. Before we leave, we can talk to a few more people, and these guys want us to know about the Great Epin. And the Great Epin is an important character that we will meet in the Dark Palace, and he will help us defeat Curly. Alright, we're heading back up the stairs, and before we go, we can make our way over here to the right. This is where the local hotel is, and these guys tell us a little bit about the basement, so that we know more about it. And yeah, we heard about the Great Epin. Of course, Epin is the guardian deity of this town. Okay, well no wonder you guys are so obsessed with him. Yep. If we use the magic of Opryn here, there is another hidden stairway, so we'll try that. And what do we find down here? But a different store. Yeah, well, if you need to buy different stuff, there is another store here. And this one, well, it's the hidden store, I guess. I don't know why they needed 2 stores in this town, but hey, if you want to keep yours hidden in a secret stairway that only one person can find, you do you, store guy. Once you're done in the town of Sudari, we can head up here, and if we use the magic of Oprin on this screen, we're going to find another one of those women that gives us 50 rupias. So yeah, thanks for that money. We'll re-equip our Stardust, make our way very straightforward path here, just follow it along, and at the end, we will reach the Dark Palace. The Dark Palace is not that difficult if you know what you're doing. It is possible, however, that you could end up in the boss's room before you found Epin, and if you did that, well, then you're not going to be able to beat the boss, so you're pretty much doomed, although you do have an item called the Ring, and that will actually get you out of the boss fight, so remember that you have that item if you're ever in an unwinnable boss fight situation. We just hit level 8, so now we are in very good shape for taking on Curly. At level 7, it could be difficult, but at level 8, no problem. Now we're going to make our way over to the right, and we're going to follow the path downwards. Probably don't really need to be fighting these enemies. We're not going to make it to level 9 before we finish the Dark Palace. But we'll head down this hallway and then loop around to the right, and then when we go up here, this is where the path forks and we need to head to the right. Now the next screen is a monster encounter trap, and then there's another one right in front of Epin's room. Whenever you have an opportunity, it is a good idea to keep your health high here. We're not going to potentially hit a monster encounter until we walk out of the next screen, so it's not super important to do it right here, but it's coming up pretty quickly, so we'll see if we hit a monster encounter after we exit the next screen. So as we step in, we have triggered the trap. Will we hit an encounter? We will find out as we go through the door up above. Okay, no encounter this time. Now this room is another monster encounter trap, so we may hit one as we exit this room. Let's see. Nope, we were safe again. Nice. We will use the magic of Oprin, and inside this stairway, we will find Epin, who's happy to join us. Alright. With Epin on our team, we will be able to defeat the boss. So we're going to make our way back, going through yet another monster trap, and this time we actually hit one. Well, we just got a new member to the team, so that's kind of cool. Let's see what our new members can do. We've made a new formation as well. This is the Ares formation. The Ares formation has some different things you can do with it. Our troopers are still going to pick up the bulk of the attacks here, though. Alright. I also wanted to try out our new magic, Flammel 1, and, well, that's what that does. Pretty good. Now we're just going to make our way back the way we came. As we pass through this screen, we could hit another encounter, but we did not. Very good. And when we get to the next room, this time we're going to go up. We went to the right previously. Over here, this is another one of those rooms where we need to use a horn item, if you have one, otherwise you'll need to fight those statues to move forward. And once we pass through this room, that's going to take us to the boss. This is Curly. Luckily, we don't have to fight Mo or Shemp, but we want to just spam the Flammel spell, so just keep smashing this spell. Each time you do it, you will be taking down this guy's shield, which is sort of its first form. And once you've done enough damage, it's going to spread its arms out and it'll have 6 arms that we're going to need to destroy, at which point we can attack them with the Stardust. Although, if you do have more magic points to work with, feel free to use a few more Flammels. They're pretty good against this guy still. Couple more of those. And this is one of those bosses that's able to regenerate health. So if you are attacking with the Stardust, make sure you're attacking the arms quickly. I usually like to keep using the Flammel spell until several of the arms go away, and then just try to clean up whatever's left with the Stardust Rod. Alright, here we go, only 2 arms left, nice. Although, possible regeneration. Okay, 1 arm remaining. So make sure to keep up the pressure. And this guy goes down pretty easily if you're at level 8. And that's it. Curly is defeated, and we will be quickly promoted to level 10. So we gain 2 levels here, and one of the spells that we get is the spell of Korbach, which actually can transform enemies into those more advanced versions of it. And from here, we're going to head on to Chapter 3. That's about the halfway point of the game. Chapter 3 is the Forest World Samalkand. Unlike in Chapter 2, there's not a big shortcut to get us through Chapter 3, so we might as well pop into the city of Nubia as we begin. Here we can see what the townspeople have to say, and they're talking about a couple things, something called a Cimarron seed, and another city called Casimil. We're also hearing about a maze in this chapter, and inside that maze is a new weapon. Up here we'll find the hotel, which charges 25 rupiah a night, but we're not going to need it at this point in the game. But we'll remember where it is, and if we head up here, we will find the more traditional store. We'll also find some people talking about a troll. The troll is the boss of Chapter 3. And that seems to be what happened here. Some kind of Cimarron tree was cut down, and now there's major problems in this world. One of the problems is this particular store. They have a lot of good stuff, and although you can ask for a discount, they charge a lot of money for it. You should save your cash for now. We're going to find a town with a better store. Over here, we'll meet some of the Stark family, who let us know that winter is coming. We'll need a Cimarron fruit to get through the maze here, so that's something that we're going to have to do in this chapter. After we're done talking to the people, we can make our way out of the town of Nubia, which is at the bottom of the map, and we're going to want to work our way to the upper right corner where the town of Casimil is, so we have a bit of a walk ahead of us. There aren't any enemy encounter screens here at the very beginning until we get into the darker wooded area, so for now we're safe, and if we head up here, we'll be told to use the Magic of Scheherazade, where we'll find another one of those supporters that will give us 50 rupiahs. So that's nice. Yeah, we're gonna beat Sabaron. We'll take your money. Now from there, we want to head over to the right. That wasp actually changed into another enemy, so it's another one of those shapeshifters. Those guys are called Yanris. You'll just need to hit them a second time to finish them off. Up here, we're going to go up and then to the right, and this is that darker wooded area. And the next screen is the monster trap screen, so whenever we're on that one, we may have a monster battle whenever we walk out. But first, it seems that we hung out too long on this space, and now we have to deal with the Grim Reaper. Whenever you see the Grim Reaper, you may as well take the time to fight it, because the Grim Reaper is extremely persistent and will not let you go. So when the Reaper is chasing you, yeah, he's gonna follow no matter where you go. Here's that monster trap space. And yep, there's some monsters, just as expected. We could try to escape here, but let's try a formation. We can use the Ares formation against these flying enemies, and their magic formation may actually be very good here. Let's try the Tornador. The Tornador will cancel out all of your other party's attacks for that round, but it doesn't matter. Against those guys, the Tornador will take them out in one shot. So if you do see that monster set, you might want to fight them because that was a pretty easy one. Although these tree monsters are also very good for getting experience points. From here, we're not very far away from one of those MP stars, so we're going to make our way over to the left, across the top of this screen, staying away from the water. And jump over those plants and head up here. And if you have any extra magic points, make sure to refill your health. You might even want to cast spells like Deafeny or things like that so that you're ready, because these are just free magic points, assuming that you don't dip into your mushrooms. Make sure to watch how many magic points you have. Alright, fill up here. And then we're going to head up, and the MP star is one screen up from here. There it is. Then from here, we just want to head back down and make your way to the right. The next screen is another monster trap screen, so we could hit a turn-based battle there. That's why it's a good idea to make sure that we're all filled up when we're over near the MP star. And well, that was kind of a dangerous move. We should not have done that. But it's okay. We got through there without hitting an enemy. Excellent. And now we're going to make our way over to the right, taking out some more enemies so we can try to gain a level sooner or later here. Couple more should do it. I think we're pretty close. And we're heading over to the right, and then up. It's very straightforward at this point. Just follow the path along. Taking out the enemies, and there it is. There's level 11. At level 11, we're going to learn a new spell. We get Boltor 2. Boltor was a spell that we were only able to use in the action scenes before, but once you get Boltor 2, you'll actually be able to use it in the turn-based battles as well. When you get up here, I like to head over to the right, and then we're going to just go straight up, and that will take us to the town of Casimil. I'm not sure why they don't let you use Boltor 1 in the turn-based battles, but whatever. We have Boltor 2 now, and Boltor 3 is a spell we'll get later, and it is going to be a very important one for a late-game boss. Up here in the town of Casimil, we can talk to some people. These guys are definitely getting ready for winter. That old man tells us to use our Magic of Oprin, and in here, well, it's the Magic University. Alright, we're gonna get a doctorate in Scheherazade by the time we're done with this game. Sprycom is the course that we want to take this time, and instead of getting a new weapon, whenever we pass this course, we actually get a full set of armor. How cool is that? Yeah, this cannot be a good deal for the university. They are going to be losing money so bad. But you'll notice that our character's appearance has changed after we get out of class, and now we will take less damage from enemies. Pretty sweet. These women want to know what winter feels like, and I'm gonna say cold. They may need to get some warmer clothing. If we head up here, we can talk to this old lady who lets us know that spring will come when the forest wakes up. Ooh, yeah, science disagrees with that. It's more of a rotation of the earth kind of thing. But yeah, you know, the forest waking up, you do you. I did mention before that there was a better store in this chapter, and this is it. You'll see here that mushrooms only cost 20 rupees instead of 60, and you could ask for a discount if you're feeling particularly stingy. Once you're done in the store, we're going to head over to the mosque. To be able to complete the events of Chapter 3, we are going to have to change our class to a saint. So if you've been wondering what it's like being a saint, Well, we're going to see that right now. If you want to be a saint, the only thing stopping you is a donation of 40 rupees, and bam, we have been canonized. Now that we're a saint, we can no longer take advantage of the upgrades to our sword or our rod, so whenever we use those weapons, we're going to notice right away that they're not as good as they were before, but we do have some additional defensive abilities, and you'll notice that the saint is a pretty rugged character that can take a lot of damage. See, when we try to use the Stardust, well, now it's just like the basic old rod. Not very good. However, if we step onto a damage tile, we're not going to take damage as the saint, so there's that. We'll be able to see that illustrated in a little bit. But just be careful whenever you're firing the rod. Remember, you can only shoot one bullet at a time. And, well, those are some of those damage tiles that we could have walked over. Oh, getting attacked by the plants. Just make your way over to the left. Here's where we can use the Magic of Scheherazade. And we're going to meet a friend here. This guy is a newborn Cimarron tree, but he promises us his firstborn son. Oh. Thank you? The more important thing is he tells us what the password is. The password is chocolat. So we'll need to remember that password as we head towards the time door, and this time we're going to the future. From the tree, the time door isn't really all that far away. So we're just going to continue to make our way over to the right, and then we're going to head down, and that should be the place where we need to use the spell of Oberyn to summon that time door. As soon as we're done messing around with these enemies. Alright, here we go. And wow, a secret entrance. No way. Okay. So yeah, for a change, we're going to go 30 years into the future. Of course, if you've been paying attention to the townspeople, you have a pretty good idea of what 30 years into the future is going to look like. That's right, it's cold. We have entered the winter world. The first thing that we need to do now that we're in the future is to meet up with that Cimarron tree who promised us his firstborn child. Yeah, we're gonna take him up on that. And here's the spot that we were looking for, and we're not actually going to get the firstborn child right here. The first thing he says, he promised us a ton of money, but he didn't do that, so make sure to say no. And as long as you're a saint and you give him the proper password of chocolat, he's going to upgrade our rod to become the Cimarron rod. A nice new weapon that we won't be able to take advantage of right now because we're a saint. Alright, we passed the test, and he says that his son's name is Pukin. I kind of feel like if we're taking custody of this creature that we maybe should have some say over what the name is, but nope, it's Pukin. Although he won't be able to be a full functioning member of the team just yet, at least not until we visit the future city of Nubia. Although now we have that Cimarron rod, and would like to make our way to the future city of Casimil, where they have one of those mosques and we can turn back into a magician and actually be able to take advantage of it. For now though, it looks like we're fighting those Pandarm guys again, and we know what to do about them. We're going to use the Tornador. Yeah, that'll fix those fools. Don't come messing with us. We'll get our measly 28 experience points and 20 rupees. And we're going to head over to the right and just continue all the way across here. Over here, we'll find where the magic field is in this area, but it's actually very difficult to use because the other side of it, located back in our current time, which is the past, and that's when we need to plant the seed, well, the other side of this magic field is located on the other side of a maze. So we'd have to go through this maze to get there, and well, hopefully we won't need to do any Rupia seeds here in Chapter 3. This is probably the worst time to be doing it. Over here, in the town of Casimil, we can talk to the people, but the most important thing that we want to do is change back into a magician. Being a saint is just not that great. On this screen, we'll meet a man who has a pretty interesting clue about a character named Supapa, who's a doll maker in the town of Nubia. The doll maker will be able to craft us the character of Pukin, and so that's where we're going to need to go next. But first, let's hit up this mosque and change back to a magician. It only costs $100? Well, if there was any question about if the magician is the best class in the game, there's your answer. It's by far the most expensive class transition. Once you pay your $100 fee and return to being a magician, we can make our way over here where these women want to know if we know what spring feels like. A nice little callback to what they said in the past. If you need to use a hotel, you can do that quickly before you leave. But it looks like we're probably in good shape, so it's time to get out of Casimil and make our way all the way to the bottom of the map where we'll find the town of Nubia. On the way, though, we are going to stop and find a wise man who will give us the great magic of this chapter, a magic called Sprycom. Be careful, remember if you hang out on these squares for too long, that's right, the Grim Reaper will pop up. And yeah, you might as well just fight him, because he's not going away. Yep, just keep hitting him with your Cimarron rod. You can see that it's a much more powerful weapon than we had before, so it was probably worth 100 rupiah to turn back into a magician. I don't know how we would have dealt with that guy if we were the saint. Just keep making your way down here. Watch out for these guys. We are kind of low on money, so it would be nice to be able to do the rupiah tree here, but we're not really going to need very much money to finish this chapter. We're actually pretty far along at this point. Just continue making your way to the left and down, and eventually we'll be able to get over to Nubia. Grab some more coins. Just keep following the path. The path is fairly straightforward here, although whenever we get to the next screen... Well, okay, over here we do have a choice. If you go up here, that's where that MP star was back in the past. But here, there's nothing here, so you don't need to come up here. It's just a dead end. Probably need to take out the Reaper here, though. Stupid Grim Reaper. Alright. Just roast this guy with a Cimarron wand. Yeah, take that. Better fill up some health. And we're just going to make our way all the way down to the bottom, and then we'll follow the path across to the right. Of course, stay out of the water. It may look green, but it's not grass or trees. That's deadly water, just like any other color. Over here, we need to go up one space before we can go right and down. So we're going to follow that path, taking out these Odamas and Kodamas, using our Pampu magic whenever we need it. And we're actually pretty close to the city of Nubia now. Not too much farther to go. That's probably enough. Another Odama, and okay, level 12. We're getting close now. We only need one more level to get to level 13. We certainly won't need 14 or 15 to beat this boss. It's not going to be that hard if we have 13 as it is. Collect these coins, head down, and we're just going to head down again and over to the left. Take out another Odama and the Kodamas. Oh, a money bag, that's helpful. Try to stay off of those squares that deal you damage. Keep your health high by using your Pampu magic. And just make your way to the left. We want to continue to the left here. And when we get to the next juncture, if you go up instead of down, that is where we're going to find that great magic. So when we were in the past, it was a place that gave us 50 rupees. This time it's going to be a wise old man. Try to get this money before it disappears. And we'll just head up here where we will be asked to use the Magic of Oprin. And inside that stairway is the Magic of Sprycom. Now, as usual, it's great magic, so we need to wait for a solar eclipse to be able to use it. But that's going to melt the snow, and well, as if on cue, there's the solar eclipse. So, the winter doesn't end when the forest wakes up. No. It ends when we say it ends, when we cast the Sprycom magic. Now, our time in Sprycom is limited, so we don't want to cast it just yet. This is the town of Nubia, but in the future. That guy wants to know who we are and where we're from. You trying to ask us out on a date? And down in here... Yep, we can hire some troopers if you want, but we should probably save our money unless you have a lot lying around right now. We might need it, especially if we need to change classes again in Chapter 4, which we do. Yeah, it did used to be warm here 30 years ago, and it will be warm here again once we use our great magic, or whenever we defeat the boss. Now this is Supapa, and when we bring him the Cimarron fruit, he'll give us a new character, Pukin. Alright, now that we have Pukin on the team, we are ready to fight the boss. There is that little matter of getting level 13, but I think we'll be able to do it. There are a few more people to talk to here, but once you're done in Nubia, it's a pretty far walk back to Casimil, so we're going to use a magic carpet. And whenever we get there, we can use our Sprycom magic, and then we'll have a nice relaxing walk back to the time door. So once we get here, it's the solar eclipse, it's winter, we're in the right spot to use Sprycom, so let's cast it. And as a side effect, you'll actually get all your health back too, which is nice. And yeah, now we'll just take a nice walk back. So we'll head over to the left. This is where that magic field is, but remember, we're in the future right now, so planting a seed is not what we do here in the future. You need to plant the seed in the past. Head over here, and then we're going to go downwards. Well, there's an enemy. There's not going to be too many enemies whenever you cast Sprycom, but there could be a couple. And we're just going to head down. Just keep going. It's kind of nice, no snow. We took too long and the Reaper showed up. But yeah, the joke's on him because we're right here at the time door, and I don't think that the Grim Reaper would chase us into the past across time and space. What, would he? Would the Grim Reaper be able to do something like that? I mean, he is very persistent, but I mean, he's not gonna follow us through a time door. That's just crazy. Oh, no. There he is. There's the Grim Reaper. Yeah, you can't hide from the Grim Reaper. Just fight the Grim Reaper whenever you see him. That's what you gotta do. Now that we're back to the present, we need to go to the maze. The maze is going to take us over to the west side of Chapter 3, and that's where the town of Passora is, and also where the Frozen Palace is. And inside the Frozen Palace is where the boss, the troll, resides. So we're going to make our way up here, and then head over to the left. We still need a few more experience points to get to level 13, so we should try to pick those up at some point. And over here, we're just going to pass by. That's where the Cimarron tree was, so we don't need to talk to him right now. We're also not a saint, so he's not very interested in us right now. He doesn't like magicians. He thinks that they're charlatans. And now we're just going to head over to the left. Here is where we need to use the Magic of Oprin. and that's going to take us into the maze. Now, because we have the Cimarron fruit, we're able to see here, so we'll be able to get through the maze. And the first thing that you want to do when you come in here is make sure that you head to the right and then up. There is a hidden weapon in here which we can collect. It is totally optional, and if you're not going to be a fighter, you probably don't need it. But if you're being a completionist, you'll want to head over here to the left and get it. If you're not really worried about getting the Kashim sword, you'll want to head to the upper right corner where we'll find the exit to the maze, and that's going to take you over to that area near where Pasora and the palace are. But if you want to get the sword, well, you may have to pass through some battles, and well, a lot of enemies here. Let's see what we can do. We'll use our Ares formation, and there's a lot of enemies to fight here, but many of them are actually pretty weak, so let's try that Tornador, which I think should take out pretty much every enemy except for maybe the Medusa. There we go. Yep. Very good. The Medusa just used a magic arrow against us, so that was a very weak attack, and I believe that our troopers should easily be able to finish off Medusa from here. Yeah, they're hitting for 8 each time. Nice. Alright, so from here we're going to head over to the left, and then down, and follow along the path, and another battle. So if you do want to get the Kashim sword, you are probably going to go through a few of these encounter squares, and that's just something that you're going to have to deal with, so that's probably a good reason to not do it. We're going to try to escape this one, and you can see that you can run the first and second time without any cost to you, although I recommend picking a formation that you might want to fight with, just in case you do end up having to stand your ground. If you try to run away a third time and you don't escape, then the monsters will get free beats on you, and you don't really want that. Once you have the Kashim sword, you want to make your way back the way that you came, and now we're going to head to that exit. If you go out the way that we came in through the starting, that's just going to take you back to the entrance, and that's not where we need to go. We need to use this maze to bridge the gap between two areas of the map. Now, this is going to be a very easy battle for us to fight, so let's see what Pukin can do. Pukin is critical for fighting the boss of this chapter, so we don't normally want to expose him to danger, but just 3 of these guys are going to be quickly taken care of by our troopers anyway, so I'm not super worried. Yeah, unfortunately we're not actually going to really get to see Pukin in action here. That battle was just too easy. So we're just going to continue walking around the path. This is a maze, but it's not a super difficult maze once you see what the map looks like. We're just going to follow along the ceiling here, head over to the right, stay along the wall here. As long as you stay along the left wall here, you won't fall into any pit traps. So just try to make the same moves that you see me making, and stay along the right wall here. Just kind of follow it along. That will keep you going the right direction, and also will help you avoid any traps. So we're just going to walk along, and here is that exit, right there. Okay, we don't need to use the Magic of Scheherazade here, that'll just take us back the way that we came. But from here, if we use the Magic of Scheherazade, this is where that magical field is, where we could have planted a seed during the solar eclipse, but it's not the solar eclipse right now, so we're not going to do any seed planting here in Chapter 3, although we may take advantage of it again in Chapter 4. I don't think there's any opportunities to do any seed planting in Chapter 5. Alright, we're going to make our way over here, and right above us is the town of Pasora. So we can take a stop into there and see what's going on with this town. This town is more or less just a pit stop on our way over to the boss, If you were trying to do the Rupia Seed in this time, you definitely want to stop in the town of Passora so that you have this as a place that you can travel to with your magic carpet. There's a store here if you need to pick up some items. Amulets are something that can be used to transform you back to normal if an enemy uses a transform spell on you, and they'll be used automatically to shorten the duration of those spells, so amulets are going to be a useful thing to have in the end of the game. No one can defeat the demon. I think you're wrong about that. We can defeat the demon. And up in this room, we're going to meet a character named Mustafa, and this is the guy that should have the yen symbol on his chest. You need to pay him 100 coins for him to join your team, and he's a very good team member, so you're certainly going to want him on board. If you don't have the 100 coins to hire Mustafa, then I recommend that you go start grinding enemies until you have enough money, because you need him on your team to beat the boss. He's going to reveal the boss's second form, just like Epin did in Chapter 2, so you're going to want to have Mustafa on your team, not just as another character to help you fight in the turn-based battles, but also as somebody that you're going to need to be able to beat the boss. Well, the palace is not very far from the town of Passora, and that's where we're going to be headed to next. So make your way over to the left, and don't hang out too long in any of these spaces, or our good friend the Grim Reaper will show up again, although we are still trying to get to level 13. Wow, he really came fast that time. Do you think that the Grim Reaper would follow us into the palace? He wouldn't do that, would he? Would he? Grim Reaper? Yep. Yeah, the Grim Reaper will definitely follow you into the palace. He followed us across time. Yeah, he's gonna follow you. You need to kill the Grim Reaper. Once you take him out here, though, you won't have to worry about the Grim Reaper anymore in the palace, and we'll be able to move forward. And it may have been a blessing in disguise, because we've just gone up to level 13. Upon gaining level 13, we do get an upgraded version of Korbok, which is called Shrink, although that's not the reason why we needed level 13 to beat the boss, we just needed the raw strength. Try to avoid this guy's shots, and make your way to this little star pad whenever he's defeated. Over here, we'll meet a dragon enemy. These guys shoot at you, and you need to beat him to go through the door above, but if you don't want to go up there just yet, we can go down here, where we'll find a hidden store. Interesting. So if you need to buy any items, now could be the time to do so, but we don't really need anything right now, so if you don't need to use the store, we are going to go fight that purple dragon. You could try to stand in front of him, or if you get right over to the side, you'll be able to hit him very quickly with your Cimarron rod. Up here, we're going to head over to the left. There's another dragon. If you just stand right here in this spot, the dragon should not hit you. And you can go up through the door. This is another one of those monster trap rooms, so we might hit a monster encounter here. We'll see as we exit the room. Oh, we were safe. And we'll go up the stairs, which will take us to the other part of the map in the lower left corner of it. So we're in the top part of the map, lower left corner. And we're going to go up and around. We just need to kind of loop around here. That will take us to the boss. As we pass over through here, we'll meet a mini-boss, Mardul, and you can actually use the higher level Shrink spell to take this guy out, or just stay away from the shots that he fires. You don't want to get transformed. If you do get transformed and you don't have an amulet, even if you do have an amulet, it can be bad. You might be quickly killed by the enemy, so you want to take those mini-bosses out fast. And don't walk right into the water there. Yeah, that's kind of a mean trap. They put the water right under the door. Well, we were able to escape from those guys, so that was good. We'll take out these enemies right here. Be careful not to slide into the water. We are on ice here. And make sure to restore your health to full before you go through the door, because in the next room is the boss, the Winter Demon Troll. Okay, we can do this. We have level 13, we have Mustafa on our team. We should be in good shape. Just be careful not to slide into the water. Careful. And here we go. For the first phase of the boss, only the red one can be damaged, but it moves very quickly from left to right, so your best bet is to actually position yourself right between two of the bosses. That way, whenever it's inhabiting either of the two blue bodies to the left or the right of your shot, you'll be able to hit it. So just stand here, shooting right between these two guys, and you'll be able to score shots if it's on the left or the right of the stars that you're shooting. So we're getting hits. It may seem like this is not the best way to do things, but if you try to chase this troll around, you're just going to take a ton of damage and you're not going to be able to hit it as often. So this is all you need to do. Get between two of them and just keep shooting. You have bread if you get low on health. You could also use your spell of Pampoo, but it doesn't take that many hits to be able to summon the second form, and Mustafa is going to help you reveal the real troll here. He slowed the troll's movement down, and so you just want to try to stay away from it and keep hitting it with your Cimarron rod. And that's all there is to it. Once his HP is depleted, we've completed Chapter 3 and will be immediately promoted to level 15. And level 15 gives us a very useful spell, the spell of Ramipas. Ramipas will allow us to avoid the random encounters as long as we use it properly. We're going to be using it a lot in the next two chapters, and it won't allow us to avoid every single encounter. You'll still have to do about every 8 encounter screens you go through. But now that we have it, it should make getting through the next two chapters just a little bit easier. And we're going to need every advantage we can get, because Chapter 4, the Flower World Celestern, is the most difficult chapter yet. Here at the beginning of Chapter 4, we're dropped off in front of a town. This is the town of Yufla, and one thing that I think is sort of a poor design for this game is that there's no mosque in this town, and I don't think there was a mosque in the previous town at the beginning of Chapter 3 either. So we just beat a boss. Now would be a great time to get our password and save the game, but there's no mosque here to get your password. Whenever we put a password in, this is where we're going to come out at, so why wouldn't there be a mosque here? It doesn't make any sense. In any case, as you come over here to the right, this guy will tell you we can use the Magic of Oprin, and when we do, you'll find a hidden stairway, but at the bottom there's just some troopers that you can hire. We don't have a lot of money right now, we don't have enough to hire any troopers, and you're going to need at least 120 gold pieces whenever we get to the next town, so keep that in mind as we move forward. We are going to be able to find 50 gold pieces out in the field, but you don't want to blow all your money at the casino or stay at the hotel if you don't have enough cash. I do want to mention that since we went past level 14, we will no longer be able to use the Flamel spell whenever we're in the turn-based battles. We're only going to be able to use Flamel 2 and 3 in the action mode. And with that, we've exited the town of Yufla, and there are several different terrain types here in Chapter 4, which is pretty interesting. At least different parts of it look different, so that makes it a little bit more fun. And we're going to come over here to the left. It's kind of like they sampled little bits of the other chapters for this one, and then they created some new stuff that's unique to Chapter 4. The path is pretty straightforward up here, and there should not be any random monster encounters, so you can feel fairly safe and we don't have to cast our Ramipos magic just yet. Got a money bag, so that's pretty helpful. Remember, we're going to want to have 120 coins whenever we get to the town of Pao, P-A-O. That's where we're headed to next. So we need to head across the top of the map, and we're going to find a path that leads down into a desert area. And once we get into the desert, we're going to head right. So that's our next couple moves. So just keep on moving to the left for now. Stay away from the purple water. Of course, it's instant death. We know that very well. We will be able to exploit the fact that jumping in the water kills you a little bit later in the game though, so stay tuned for that. Whenever we go into the desert, we'll meet a new enemy. That fire demon was called an Abiru, and he's not only pretty easy to kill, he's worth 50 experience points. So we are going to upgrade our rod weapon and get the crystal rod. And whenever we do that, there's another spot where we're going to be grinding levels using those Abiru enemies because they're just very easy and a very good way to gain levels. Unlike this fight, which we're going to try to escape, remember you can run away 2 times before you'll be punished for trying to escape again. So those first 2 are kind of a free roll and probably worth taking. And here we can use the Magic of Scheherazade. Once inside, we'll be able to get our 50 rupees, and this is going to be very helpful to pay for our textbooks when we get to university. We end up on the other side of the water, and we're going to head over to the right. Here's another one of those Abiru monsters. Make sure to take advantage of fighting them whenever you can. And over here, if we use the Magic of Scheherazade, we're going to find a magic field. This is another chapter where we're going to be going back into the past, so whenever there's a solar eclipse, we want to plant our Rupia seed at the magic field in the past. And then of course we'd come back here in the future to collect on it. Over here, there's a heavily wooded area with Odamas and Kodamas that will remind you of some parts of Chapter 3. And if we're going to cast Ramipos, we need to cast it on this screen here. If you wait and cast it on the screen that has the red marking on it, the one that's the enemy trap, you've waited too long. It's too late to cast Ramipos to avoid an encounter then. You need to cast it on the screen before you go into the trap. Once you've sprung the trap, it's too late. And actually, if you were to cast Ramipos again when you were in that square, it would void its effect for the next square, and we might get a monster encounter because of it. So for Ramipos to work, it needs to be cast before you enter the trap. It doesn't take effect until the next screen. So this is the town of Pao, and we'll find out a little bit more about the demon salamander here. It seems that we need to go to this fire palace, but we're not going to be able to defeat the demon now in the present. We're going to have to go pretty far back into the past, to the time of the demon's birth. Now, according to the way this story was going, I thought Sabaron summoned these demons, but this one's going to be born? What does a demon birth look like? Is it going to be gross? Is it something that we don't want to see? Well, in any case, here's the Magic University, and this time the fee is 100 rupees. Luckily, we don't need to take the Kaitos course, but we do want to take the Moscom course. The Kaitos course costs 40 rupees and is a complete ripoff. There is no reward for passing it. But for the Moscom course, we'll get the Crystal Rod, which is an improvement over the Cimarron. Pretty awesome. So that was really the only thing that we needed to do in this city. So we can head on out, and we're going to make our way to the village of Chirgris. Cheergrass is down in the lava zone, and we'll want to head down there. So we're going to go south from the town of Pau, and just work our way through the forest, back over into the desert, and whenever we get to the desert, we're going to pass by that magic field, and then we're going to head south from there and take a quick left, and then head back down to the bottom of the map. So that's our basic path through. Remember, we don't want to linger too long in the desert because you will take damage just for hanging around there. Also, if you still have the great magic of rain come, you will be able to use it if there's a solar eclipse. And not only that, if you don't have it right now, there is a place where we can learn it in the past. You may have noticed that the time door is also located down here on the map, so we're going to be making our way towards the time door, but before we go there, we have a few cities to visit, and we also want to make a quick stop at Euphla Palace, where we're going to pick up an important ally. This is definitely an optional town to stop at, although you'll at least want to walk in here so that it's a place you can teleport to when you use a carpet. But the big highlights of this town are that there's a mosque here, so you can finally get your password if you need to get your password. And there's also a store here that sells a map. So if you wanted a map of the palace, this is the place where you're going to be able to buy it. Well, these people are pretty upset about this salamander guy. They have a feeling that he pretty much spells doom for everyone in this city. And here's that mosque, so if you needed the password, there's where you can get it. And here is that store. Inside, we can purchase the map of the palace. And as usual, the map costs 40 rupees. So if you want it, feel free to grab the map. It's not actually very important. You're going to see a map right here on the screen, but if you're being a completionist, that's where you get the map for this chapter. Once you're done here in Cheergrass, we're going to make our way to the right, and over here is where we're going to be able to grind levels. Over here to the right is one of those Abiru enemies, and this is a great place where we can fight him to gain levels. And just like that, we already have gained level 16. You'll also want to pick up money bags whenever you see them, and you can just keep going back onto this screen, and if the Abiru doesn't appear, just walk off the screen again and he'll pop up. You'll want to keep doing this until you get to level 19. So it is possible to beat the boss of Chapter 4 at level 17. So this is level 17 right here. And at level 17, you'll get the third level of Boltor. So that's pretty cool. You'll actually be using that spell at the very end of the game. But you should keep going from there. While it is possible to beat the boss at level 17 or level 18, the fight will be very frustrating and extremely difficult. I highly recommend that you get to level 19, and if you're not sure, maybe even take the time to get to level 20. It could be worth it. This boss is tough. The difference between fighting Salamander at level 18 and level 19 is night and day. I cannot stress this enough. Speaking of night and day, while we were grinding levels, the solar eclipse happened. So we do want to go back into the past and take advantage of some solar eclipse stuff, but before we go there, let's take a quick pit stop here into Euphla Palace in the future, or the present I suppose, where we can meet a new character, Goobibi. Goobibi is some kind of living bottle. I'm kind of wondering if they started to run out of ideas and just started looking around the room for inspiration. But whenever you get Goobibi, you also get a magic robe, and the magic robe will let you swim in lava, but not just any lava. Sort of like in Chapter 1, there's a specific spot where you can jump into the water after you've recruited Goobibi onto your team. Once you have Goobibi on your team and you have level 19, it's time to make your way to the time door. This time we're going to go way back in time. 3,000 years. Yeah, he's gonna take you back to the past. Sorry, wrong channel. And here we are, way back in the past of Chapter 4. Here is a town called Farville, and Farville is full of fairies. Most of these fairies say the same thing if they're on the same screen, so keep that in mind if you don't want to talk to everybody. It is the solar eclipse, so if you need to buy a rupia seed, we could here at this store. And as we make our way to the left, one of these fairies says something familiar sounding. Hey, listen! Navi? Is that you? Up here we find out that we're not going to be able to defeat Salamander without a character named Rainy, and this guy says that we'll need a holy robe to get into the lava, but we have the holy robe already. There are a few more fairies we can talk to down below, and before we leave the town of Farville, it is a very good idea to change our class to a fighter. Not because a fighter is a superior class right now, but because if you're not a fighter, Rainy will not join our team. We are going to have to spend a little bit of money, 60 rupias, but that's all it costs to become a fighter. Remember that since we're a fighter now, we don't want to be using rods, we need to use sword weapons. And since we have a pretty good sword weapon at this point, if your health is high enough, it'll actually project. So this is the Kashim sword. And we're also going to equip our Ramapos magic, which we should use on this screen if we want to try to avoid encounters ahead. So we'll cast it right now. Ramapos lasts about 30 seconds of real time. You can see that being a fighter isn't bad, but it's just not as good as a magician against the bosses. We'll make our way up here. When we get to the top, we're going to head to the right. And pretty soon we're going to be heading into a lava zone. Lava is essentially the same as water. If you walk into it, it's instant death. And we're going to want to head up here. This is an encounter trap screen, but our Ramapos is still active. And you can see that this Kashim sword is pretty good, and our Ramapos just ran out. And because it ran out, there was no chance actually to cast it there to get out of that encounter, but we were able to escape, so that was good. I don't think it would have been too difficult to defeat those monsters if we had to stand our ground. We wanted to make it to the magic field while the solar eclipse was still going, and we did, so we were able to plant a seed, and if we can just get a little bit farther, we can also learn the magic of Raincalm, which we can use to turn the desert green in Chapter 4. So that could be fun to do, although it's not super important to do. But you know, it's another way to use great magic, and I wanted to be able to show it here in the video. We'll use our spell of Operin, and be careful not to step into the water there. That is instant death, of course. And here's the wise man that can teach us the great magic of Raincalm. Although, I mean, how great is it really? It's completely optional, and before we go back to the future so that we can cast Raincalm, something that's totally optional to do, we're going to quickly stop over in the City of Lava so that we'll be able to use our carpet to get back there later. You'll notice that our sword is effective against those enemies when they're just tails sticking out of the sand, and as long as you've rescued Gubibi from Yufla's palace in the future, you will be able to go down here into the lava, so don't jump into the lava if you didn't rescue Gubibi. That was a very important step. In here there's a bunch of weird crab-like creatures which have the audacity to call us ugly. I like it. We're going to head over here to the right. And in this room is where we're going to be able to recruit Rainy. We are a fighter, So as long as we tell him that we're not afraid of anything, not scared of any monsters, and we're a fighter, Rainy will join us. Rainy is essential for being able to defeat the boss, Salamander. And as we head down here, that stairway is the way to get out of the lava, so we don't need to take it anywhere. And we can come over here and talk to the last crab monster, who will let us know that you need to be a fighter to be able to recruit Rainy. Well, yeah, we figured that out already, thanks. Now we will use our carpet to get back to the city of Farville. And right outside of Farville is the time door. So we're going to head back to the future now. And there's that time door. Whenever we get back to the present, there's no need for us to be a fighter anymore, and in fact, we definitely want to be a magician to be able to beat the boss here. This is very, very important. So we're going to use a carpet to go back to the city of Chirgris, where we know that there's a mosque, and inside we can pay 100 rupiah, and we'll be able to change back into a magician. So, kind of an expensive recruit to get Rainy on the team. We had to spend 60 to turn into a fighter, and then another 100 to turn back into a magician. But when you see the boss here, there is no way that you want to be a fighter fighting this guy. We'll pay our 100 rupiah donation, and suddenly we can use magic rods again. That's how things work here in the world of ancient Arabia. And now we can head over to the hotel. We might as well spend a bunch of money since we're about to get a bunch of money from the rupiah tree. And whenever we head out of the town of Chirgris, we're going to be heading straight to the desert so we can use that rain calm magic. And here we are. We did it. We made it to the desert. It's still the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse lasts for a pretty long time, although once you use the magic of rain calm, that will end the eclipse. And here it is. The desert in Chapter 4 is now a fertile oasis. Sadly, this will not last forever, so basically we want to cast our Ramipas magic and then make our way over to where that magic field is so that we can get our money, and then we just want to make our way back to the distant past where we can actually fight the boss. If you try to fight Salamander in the present, it's just a bunch of fireballs there, and you'll have to use the ring to get out. So you don't want to even enter the room with Salamander here in this time. So yeah, now that we have all our money, almost the maximum amount of money, it's time to make our way back to the time door, and we'll take a nice little stroll through the desert that we turned green here. Just try to enjoy it while it lasts. You know. And we can go back to the time door. If you need to use the hotel in Chirgris, you should do that now. Otherwise, we're going to head over here to the right, and we want to take the first path downwards, and then just follow it over until Coronia tells us we should use our Magic of Oprin, and we'll be able to head back to Salamander's birth. 3,000 years in the past. Now that whole thing of course was optional. If you didn't need any more money, or you didn't care about casting Rain Calm a second time, then you don't have to worry about doing any of that, and you can just stay here in the past. And from the City of Lava, we're actually pretty close to where the boss's palace is. Once we get to the town of Lava, we need to get out of the swimming area, and to do that, we need to find the stairway which is within the town. You probably remember where it is, so just head down here, and there's the stairs. That will take you up to the Lava Cape, and from here we're just going to take the path around, and at this juncture we'll go upwards and carefully walk on this narrow pathway this is the place where we should cast Ramapos to try to avoid an encounter when we hit the next trap square. Remember, Ramapos won't ward off every single monster encounter, just most of them. And we'll head over to the right here. There's no monster screens here, so that's good. And if we go up here, we'll find an MP star so we can refill our health with the Pampoo magic, cast any spells that we want like Ramapos, we can cast Deafeny, cast all that stuff, and then we'll touch the magic star to refill our MP to full. Alright, we're taking very good advantage of that MP star. And once we've done so, there is one more red encounter space that we'll pass through here. And then we're smooth sailing to the palace. Just follow the path up. And here it is. Chapter 4's Euphla Palace. The Fire Demon Salamander will be born here. So from the starting, you'll head up. And then if you go straight up here, we'll avoid an encounter screen, although we will have to fight this mini-boss. This mini-boss can be easily defeated using the Shrink magic. It'll actually change its form and then it can be killed in a single hit of your magic rod. Pretty sweet. Once you're past that mini-boss, we're going to head over to the right and follow the path over to this stairway, which will take you to the next area. Over here, we're going to be able to find another fighter weapon, the Sword of Rostam, but that is completely optional, so if you don't care about getting fighter weapons, you don't have to do it. There are 2 monster encounter trap squares here, and in the very center of the room, if you use the magic of Operin, you'll find a hidden shop. One thing that you need to be very careful with about this shop though is whenever you leave, it positions you right next to the lava. So if you're not careful, you may take a bad step and end up dead. You want to step down right after you get out of the stairs there. Over here and up, we'll find a hidden stairway using our Operin magic. And inside, the Sword of Rostam. Kylo held it, then it roared. This is the hero Rostam's sword. Unfortunately, it takes you over to the other side of the lava, so you have to take the long way around after you collect the sword. The stairway to get out of here is in the lower left corner of this section of the palace. We'll pass through this monster trap square, and well, we found a magma regiment. Let's see what we can do with our new formation, the Kaito Squad. Alright, we have a special spell called Thundern. We'll try that one out, and it's pretty good against these guys. It killed the 2 on the left, leaving the 2 Ramsa Barbs, and those guys often just try to cure themselves, which is pretty pointless against our team. We can also try our Boltor spell against them, which is very powerful here in the turn-based battle, although it does use a lot of MP. In fact, it'll just keep casting for quite some time, although if it kills all the enemies, it will save you some magic points. Well, we got 60 experience points for that long battle, which is only 10 more than fighting one of those Ibiru enemies. From here, we want to make our way over to that lower left corner, where we will find some stairs, and that's going to take us to the final section of the palace. From here, it's not too far to get to the boss. We want to head straight up, and then to the right, and at this juncture, we want to make sure to go down. If you don't have Ramapos active, you should have cast it before that monster encounter screen, and we'll have an opportunity to cast it again here to try to avoid an encounter from this screen. And on this path, we're going to be able to find the special great magic of Chapter 4, a spell called Mosscalm. You may have thought that Raincalm counted as a great magic, but no, there's a unique one for Chapter 4, although it's not super great. It just summons a magical mosque whenever you cast it during the solar eclipse. And that special mosque can only change your class, although it does it for free, but no passwords or revivals. You need to be careful when fighting that mini-boss. You won't be able to use Shrink on him. And you'll be able to fight Barzel again up here in the next room. You need to be super careful that you do not get hit by its fireballs, so make sure to step out of the way and not just be shooting stupidly. Make sure to shoot and then step, shoot, step, shoot, step. If you get hit by one of those fireballs, you'll be transformed and you could be instantly killed and lose a life. Make sure that you're up to full health before you enter this room, because it's time to fight the boss, Salamander. Rainy will summon the boss, and you're going to need to hit it with your crystal right in its center eye. That's the only place where it's vulnerable, and it quickly moves from left to right, so you'll need to do your best. Don't just fire off willy-nilly. If you're shooting too quickly, you might not have a chance to hit it whenever it comes into your field. If you're moving around too much though, that's a problem. Whenever you're facing to the left or right, you won't be able to hit Salamander, and you're not going to be able to do any damage that way. So you just need to kind of park yourself in one spot and just keep firing whenever you have a chance. Each time Salamander goes off the screen, it's going to get some of its health back. And that can be very frustrating and kind of demoralizing. Don't give up though. Sooner or later, Salamander will slow down and you'll have a good chance to hit it a bunch of times. That's when you need to be able to deal with a lot of damage. You just need to have a couple good rounds with this guy. But you do need to be careful. If you fight Salamander too many times, Rainy will get tired and then you'll have to use the ring to leave this place and start all over again. That will not be good. Do not waste time trying to heal yourself with Pampu magic. Hopefully you have enough bread to keep you alive, unless you're going to die. I mean, if you're going to die, you'll have to try to heal yourself, but that can be detrimental. And we're having a really good fight that round, so that actually did some damage to the boss. I think you get at least 10 rounds with the boss before Rainy will get tired. And at level 19 or 20, it shouldn't take too many rounds to beat this guy. Maybe 5 or 6 at the most. If you're level 18 though, it can be very difficult, and you may run the risk of running out of time against this guy. That is why I highly recommend that you get at least level 19, and if you're not confident against this guy, go all the way to level 20. Ugh, almost beat him there. Okay. Shouldn't restore too much health. We should be able to defeat the boss in this cycle if we're careful. Hopefully it will slow down enough for us to get some good hits in. Here we go. Alright. Come on, just a few shots. Come on. Yes, yes. Okay, we did it. That is a tough boss. But at level 19 or level 20, you will be able to do it, and whenever you complete Chapter 4, you will be promoted to level 20. For the pleasure And that's it. Chapter 5 is the final chapter. Of course, Mustafa wants more money. Yeah, you should have made that more clear when you signed up. We already paid you, buddy. You're coming with us to the end. Well, this is it. Chapter 5, Evil Magician Sabaron. Unlike in the previous chapters, in Chapter 5 we're actually going back to the same area that we were in Chapter 4, but we're going to be able to see what it looks like now that we took out Salamander 3,000 years in the past. So yeah, the city is a little bit different, there is some butterfly effect things going on, but for the most part the area isn't that different. Of course, it doesn't have all those different terrain types this time, it's a little bit more consistent now. Over here, there's a store if you need to pick up items. And over on this side, if you use your Magic of Oprin, you'll find a hidden casino. So, yeah, that's kind of weird. We don't really need the casino right now. We have almost the maximum amount of money, so probably the one thing we'd be able to do here in the casino is lose money. So at this point, we don't really need to use the casino for any reason. But up here, if you want to use a hotel, there's a hotel, and a few more clues from some NPCs who tell us that we need the Armor of Light before we can meet Sabaron. This is a little bit of a different kind of chapter. There is a time door here in Chapter 5, but it takes us to a very specific location, and we won't really fully explore that world. We also won't be doing any rupia tree planting or anything like that this time. We definitely want to stop up here in this room, where we will get the final member of our party, another genie named Hassan. Our team is now complete, and we can make any formation we want. The next thing that we actually need to do is find the light armor, and there's two ways of going about doing it. There's a shortcut, which I'm about to reveal to you, and that shortcut will save you a lot of time and allow you to skip a big chunk of Chapter 5. It's not that difficult to do, so it's something that you should be able to pull off, although it's a bit risky. You could lose lives or die doing it, and you need to make sure that you have at least one life in reserve and a magic carpet before you attempt this trick. If you don't want to do the trick, well then we'll need to do a lot more steps to get the light armor, and I'm going to show you both ways, but I will show you the shortcut first. So we're just going to make our way over to the city of Pau. It's over here on the right. Try to stay out of the water, of course. We know that the water is instant death. We used our Ramapas magic so that we didn't hit any encounters up at the top of the map. And over here on the next screen, we'll find that village of Pau. This is another place that we went to in Chapter 4, but it's different now. In this town, we're going to meet a guy that wants us to prove that we are the descendant of Isfa, and this time he's not going to accept our word for it, and he certainly doesn't care that we have a pretty cool feather on our turban. No, he insists that we show him a legendary sword, which is something that we're going to have to find back in the past. Great. Once we have the legendary sword, we'll be able to show it to him, and he will reveal to us the location of the light armor. Although if you look on your map there, you can see that it's directly south of this town. It just happens to be separated by some water, and there's a strange white bridge there. Well, whenever you come here with a legendary sword and talk to this guy, he will make that bridge appear. Well, alright Kaji. We'll come back with the legend sword, or maybe we won't. You don't have to get it if you use the following trick. Here's what you should do. If you want to use this trick, you need to come over to this screen, carefully make your way over to the left side, and make sure that you have a jump equipped. Get close to the bottom of that tree, and as you transition to the right, you want to press down a little bit so that you move down the screen, and then quickly switch over to the left so you don't fall into the water. When you get down to this screen that has the flashing white bridge, it's okay to drop into the water, and from here you want to take a little Euro step and then jump, and you'll make it over to the next part of the bridge. And over here we can use the Magic of Oprin, where we will find the light armor. Now that we have the light armor, we'll be able to skip ahead here in Chapter 5, and we won't have to do any of that stuff to get the legendary sword. And since we don't really want to be a fighter anyway whenever we fight the final boss, we don't actually need it for anything. To get out of here, you're going to need to use a carpet, so make sure to have one on hand if you're going to use that trick. But if you're not going to take advantage of that little glitch, here's what you need to do instead. We need to make our way to the town of Cheergris, and from there we're going to make our way to Eufla Palace. There's no lava in that zone anymore, but the water down there is equally lethal, so although it seems like we fixed this area up, yeah, I mean the water's still pretty dangerous to us. On this screen we'll be able to find a place where we can hire some troopers, and we do have a lot of money sitting around, so let's see how many more troopers we can hire. The maximum number you can have is 99, and it seems that we have reached that number. Alright, well we have 99 troopers hired, so if we meet any turn-based battles, we should be in good shape. And now we're going to make our way down here and to the right. Here's another one of those Abirus. As usual, you'll want to take advantage of fighting those guys when you can, but they don't seem to spawn very consistently in this chapter. Head over here to the right, and here is the village of Cheergris, surrounded by a nice blue lake this time. We don't need to recruit any more characters, so we're pretty much just coming here for information, and some people will tell us a little bit about the Light Palace, which is what Eufla Palace used to be called. Well, so they say. It seems like it was always Eufla Palace, at least it was 3,000 years ago. I mean, how far back are we trying to go? Over here, we can talk to a few more people that are wondering, what is Sabaron doing in the palace? Do you have anything better to think about? Up here, there's a mosque. If you need to change to a magician, now is the time to do so. You are definitely going to want to be a magician whenever you fight the final boss, but if you're not a magician already, I'm not even sure how you got this far. This guy wants us to defeat Sabaron. I mean, yeah, we want that too. That's what we've been trying to do this entire time. And it seems that only Princess Scheherazade remains captured. Yeah, thanks for rubbing that in. Up here, there's another store, and this guy sells a map, so if you'd like to have a map, you can purchase it here for 40 rupees. So that's kind of interesting. And that's pretty much the last interesting thing about this town. It is an important stop on our route in case we want to use a carpet to get back here later. Once we head out of the town, it's important that we cast our Magic of Ramapas before we step onto the next screen if we want to try to avoid enemy encounters. So keep that in mind. And this guy lets us know that there's a time door in the palace. Well, it's not exactly in the palace. It's in the maze that's below the palace. So that's kind of where we're heading. We'll cast our Ramipas and make our way to the right. Passing through this enemy trap screen. Safe. And there should be another one here. Let's see if we get out of this one alive. If we head down here to the bottom, oh, well, we did hit an enemy even though we had the Ramapas on, so that will happen occasionally. But let's try out our new formation. This is the Dragon formation, and its super power move is called the Firebolt, and it's a pretty powerful one. Well, took all these guys down to 9, and if we were at higher levels, it probably would have taken them out in a single shot. Well, our troopers and whoever should be able to take out these enemies pretty easily, or... well, okay. Maybe we should just use the Firebolt again? Yeah, that's probably a good way to go. See you later, suckers. Fireball, fireball, fireball. Looks like we win. If we head down here, we'll find where the time door was in the previous chapter, but this time we're going to find a wise man who will give us the final great magic, and this is the best one. Well, maybe not, it's the second best one. The best one is definitely the one that gives you a ton of money and items. But Libcom, when cast during the solar eclipse, will refill you to the maximum health and magic. But that's not all. It will also revive any dead party members, and it will also refill their health and magic. so it refills your entire team to full. So yeah, that's a pretty cool spell. Sadly, you can only use it once, and you can only use it during the solar eclipse, so it has its limitations, but it's definitely worth the time to stop down there and grab it. And here is Euphla Palace in this time period. I didn't hit any random encounters in here. I walked all over this place and tried to see if I would hit any. It doesn't seem like there are any in here. All you want to do is go up the right side, take out these purple dragons, and the doors will open, and when you get to the top, we'll be able to use our Magic of Scheherazade once again, and we will gain access to the maze. Here it is. Just like in the previous 4 chapters, there's a cavernous maze in this one. And you want to start off by heading to the right, skip that first intersection, and then go up at this juncture. You're going to pass a Hebel house, and once you pass it, there's going to be a stairway that takes you to an upper floor. And from that floor, you'll have access to several different stairways that can take you to different areas of the map. We want to head up and to the right, and then go down to the lower right corner where you'll find Stairway B, and then you want to head downwards from there, and make your way around the right side of the map, where we'll first hit a hidden university. So that's what's going to be up in the next room here. Go through here and head out the top, but you don't want to take any courses here. None of them have rewards, and we certainly don't feel like wasting 100 rupees just getting admittance if there's not going to be any rewards. They finally figured it out. Handing out scimitars and magic wands is just bad business. You want to hand out paper instead. If you had taken the shortcut and already had the Armor of Light, by going through that door, you'd be able to enter the final palace. But we don't have it yet because we didn't do the shortcut this time. I just showed you that so you can see how to do it. So in the normal path, we need to go over here and use our Magic of Scheherazade. And when we head through this, it's a time door. This time door will take us to the Light Palace 3,000 years ago. So back here in the Light Palace, we need to find that legendary sword that will somehow prove that we are descended of the great Isfa, although I don't think that's how paternity actually works in real life. Well, Mari, he didn't have the legendary sword, so Isfa, you are not the father. Yeah, it does not work that way. Up here, if we use our Magic of Scheherazade, we'll find a clue. And it's a pretty good clue from a wise man. He tells us that there's a jar that we can walk through. Yeah, most of the jars down here are barriers, but there's a secret one that you can actually pass through. You're going to need to do that to be able to get the sword, and if you're looking at the map on the screen, it's marked by a yellow arrow. So just follow along this path. And when we come up here, you're going to head to the right, and that is the jar that you can walk through. It's a very important part of the path. That's the only way to get over here. Once you're over on this side, you're going to make your way to the right, and then down, and then over to the right one more space, and up. And to get through this door, you're going to need to use a key, something that we haven't really needed very much of for the entire game. A voice is heard somewhere. Put on the Armor of Light and fight with Isfa's rod. And apparently we're the new Isfa now. Alright, cool. And we have the legendary sword. Great. Now we also need to listen to the pillar's voice. So a lot of information to unpack there. But the bottom line is we got the legendary sword, and you cannot use a carpet to get out of here. So, oh man, that's a lot of enemies. Oh man, alright, we get a second chance to escape. Let's make the dragon formation. Alright. Alright, okay. We don't have to fight all those guys. That's probably for the best. We're going to head back the way we came. You cannot use a carpet to get out of here. We need to get back to the time door, but as soon as we get back to the other time period, then we can use a carpet immediately. So we'll just make our way back the same way that we came. And here's the room where we found out the clue about the jar that we can walk through, so that should help you get your bearings a little bit. And we're just going to go through this door, try to grab that money bag, why not? We probably won't need money for anything else in the game, but there is a store in the final palace if we are trying to buy stuff at the last minute, so it's not for nothing. And here's where that time door is, and that will take us back to the future, right in the middle of the maze. We are very close to the end now. With the legendary sword in our possession, we just have to go back to the town of Pau, and we can use that carpet right away. We'll meet with our friend Kaji, and Kaji will open the way to the light armor. The light armor is actually pretty awesome. It will give us better defense against monsters, so it's certainly something that we want, and it's also the key to entering the final palace. So we just want to make our way over here. And hey Kaji, guess what? We have the legendary sword. Okay. So he wants us to go south of town, and we'll be able to see the bridge that we need to walk across. This bridge wasn't there before, so that's why we needed to use that trick to get across before we had the legendary sword. And here it is. The magical bridge. Pretty cool. Down here, we'll see a very familiar screen. We need to use the Magic of Scheherazade, and inside we'll find that light armor. The voice of Isfa also told us that we need to listen to the pillar, and this is that clue. Take a rod and shoot me. Stand on the red moon. Stand on the white sun. Shoot when Orochi makes the star turn blue. It's kind of a cryptic clue right now, but whenever we get to that part of the game, it's gonna make sense. Don't worry about it. Alright, now that we have the light armor, we can go back to the town of Chirgris. Might be a good time to use a hotel if you need it. We can cast our spell of Ramapas here, and we want to make our way back to Yufla Palace because that will take us down to the maze, and we know from our previous experience in the maze that we can go through into the final palace if we have the light armor, and we have it now. So that's what we need to do next. You definitely don't want to be knocked off into the water by that guy, so be careful as you pass him. And here is that palace once again. Alright, we know what to do here. We just want to head one screen to the right, take out some of these purple dragons, and open the way to the maze. Try not to take too much damage from these guys. You can try to attack them from the front, which is a little bit more conservative, but once you get a few hits on them, you probably just want to step up and attack them from the side. Attacking from the side is making it a lot easier to get some hits. So just head up here. We'll use our Magic of Scheherazade, and there is the stairway, the stairs to the maze. Once we're in the maze, we know we need to go to the right, and we now have level 21, and that is excellent because at level 21 we get a new magic spell, the Magic of Marita. Marita heals 50 hit points for only 4 magic points. Yeah, that is a great deal, and it's a spell that we've really wanted for like the entire game, but we don't get it until the very end right here. Having level 21 will make the next parts a lot easier, but we won't need to cast it too many times if we're playing well. Remember to take Stairway B, make your way past the university, so we head down first, and then follow the path along the right side. You can try to take out some of these enemies. There's going to be a pretty good place to level up fast whenever we get into the final palace. We need to be level 23 when we're fighting the final boss. It's possible to beat the boss at level 21 as we are now, but like the previous one, we really want at least level 23, and you can have up to level 25. The more levels, the merrier. Well, we got the solar eclipse, so let's try out that Moscom magic. And you can see it's not super impressive, although the class change is free. The first screen of the next palace is a monster trap, so make sure to cast your Ramipaz now. Otherwise, you may encounter a monster whenever you exit this screen, but there's not actually very many monster traps here in the final palace. We want to make our way around the right side. Over here on the right side, if you have a key, we'll eventually be able to open up a door where we can get 50 more rupees, so that's kind of nice. And it's also sort of on the way, so here's that door right there. This is the last 50 rupiah prize in the game. And then you're going to go to the left and just make your way around the right side still. So go up to the top. And when we get to the very top, there's a mini-boss up there called Mardul. Now, Mardul can be transformed using our Karava magic, so he is very easy to defeat. Alright. Transformed into a spider, and quickly taken out, and each time you defeat Mardul, you'll gain 50 experience points. So this is a pretty efficient way of gaining experience. Just keep coming in here. Make sure that you use Karaba every time though, because this boss is kind of dangerous. Step onto the star pad, and you need to gain up to level 22 and then level 23, and if you look on the map, whenever you get low on magic points, there's actually a magic star right here in the palace that you can access. Or, if the solar eclipse is still going on, maybe we should try out that Libcom magic, because the eclipse is probably going to wear off pretty soon. And there it is. We've recovered everybody's HP and MP, and it would even revive dead characters. So we want to keep fighting Mardul until you reach at least level 23, and if you're feeling ambitious, go ahead and get up to level 24 or 25. But you do want at least 23 before we fight the final boss. Alright, once you have it, make your way over here to the left, and you see on the map there's a door labeled Sabaron. That is where we are headed. Not to the door labeled Boss. We'll need a key to get in here, and here is the big twist of the game. Sabaron tells us that he messed up. Releasing those demons, he released one that was too powerful for him to control, and now we need to stop the demon Gora Gora. He also cast a very specific curse on Princess Scheherazade that made her transform her appearance, but she was unable to identify herself to us. That's right, she's been with us the entire time, and now we need to say her name. Otherwise we'll all die. Yes, that's right. Princess Scheherazade was Coronia the entire time. Take notes, M. Night Shyamalan, that's a pretty good twist. The damsel in distress was actually a member of our team all along. Not bad. Once you key in the name, the spell is broken, and we have rescued Princess Scheherazade. We did it. We now have rescued all of the sisters, and it seems that their father named them in a very specific way. That's right, the first two letters of each of their name create the name of the god Eroshi. We now have the Isfa Rod, which is the most powerful rod weapon in the game, and with it, we'll be able to defeat the final boss. So you want to be a magician at level 23, and you have the Isfa Rod, and you will have a chance. Over here, we'll be able to find that magic star. So this is where you could have restored your magic points whenever you were trying to level up. You don't want to use up all your mushrooms whenever you're level grinding. If you do need to get some more mushrooms or breads, which could be important for the final battle, there is a store here in the final palace, so we're going to make our way over there before we go to the end. It's kind of on the way anyway. So head through this way. There are supposed to be some mini-bosses that we fight, but you only fight them when you're passing through screens a certain direction, as you may have noticed when we fought Mardul before. Head down this hallway with the Hebel house, pass through this door, and then we're going to follow the path along to the right. Going down here will take you to the boss, but if you need to use the store, this is where we're going to head to the right and then up, and then head over to the left. The game doesn't tell you to use the magic of Oprin right now because Coronia has been transformed back into Scheherazade, and so she's not actually helping us with that anymore. Well, this is where the store is, and if Coronia was with us, she would have told us to use Oprin. But make sure that you have 10 breads and 10 mushrooms before you leave here, and then make your way back to this door and back over to the left. From this intersection, you're going to head down, and this path is going to take us to the boss. The final boss is definitely not easy, so don't expect this to be a cakewalk. Make sure that you have at least level 23, and whenever you fight the wizard Brazo here, try to avoid his fireball shots so that you don't get transformed. Well, luckily we got transformed after he was already dead. But that's a very big danger against that guy. You don't want to lose a life now. Head up here, past this Hebel house, cast Ramipos here to avoid the final encounter in the game. Although we might end up having to do it anyway, I can't remember how many we've passed at this point. I think we're going to be alright. Just in case, make sure that you're completely healed using your Marita spell. And go up through the door. Alright, it looks like we made it through without any encounters. And here is another maze. How do you solve this maze? Well, going up is the first direction, and if you're going correctly, it will be red, but if you go the wrong way, it'll be orange. So how do you do it? Alright, go right, up, left, up, and then it'll be straightforward. So it's like up, right, up, left, up, 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 up. Just keep going up. But that's how you were supposed to figure that out. You know that you went the wrong way if the color changes, so you just need to kind of do some trial and error. Nobody actually tells you exactly how to pass that puzzle. Over here, we need to stand on the red moon and fire at the pillar, then stand on the white sun and fire at the pillar, then wait for this star to turn blue and fire one more time. There it is. That's it. The room will explode, and it will be time to face the final boss, Gora Gora. There will just be a few fireballs before the boss appears. Make sure that you have Boltor 3 and Isfa equipped. As soon as you see the boss, start walking to the lower left corner, and keep casting Boltor 3, but don't cast it too quickly. You need to cast it like intermittently so that each hit actually counts. Just make sure that you're always holding left so that you're moving to the left. Whenever it transforms into 2 orbs, you need to shoot at the black orb only. That's how you're going to deal it damage. And after a few seconds, make sure that you're on the side of the room, either the left or the right side, because when the main boss reappears, if you're too close to the center of the room, you're going to be too close to the boss's mouth, and it will suck you in, and that is instant death. So you're trying to stay as far away from the mouth as you can, and just keep casting Boltor 3 until it transforms into those orbs. And when it's in the orb form, you need to hit the black orb with your Ispa Rod. It's definitely possible to beat this boss in 2 cycles, but it could take a 3rd cycle, so don't take any chances. When you've been fighting the orbs for a few seconds, make your way to the side of the room in case the boss reappears. You don't want to be sucked into its mouth. And that's it. We've done it. We've beaten the Magic of Scheherazade. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. For one last time, we see the entire team, minus Coronia, assembled on the flying carpet. And then this is very similar to the scene that opened the game. Once again, we're heading up into the mosque, but this time we'll be greeted by the four sisters and King Fiesel. A fanfare plays. A job well done. The demons have been defeated and peace has been restored to the kingdom. Sadly, I don't think that Sabaron will ever get to rejoin the Blue Man group, no matter how many demons he summons. And of course they did have to leave it open for some sequels, so there's a bit of text here at the end that says that while we saved Arabia, there may be more adventures in store for Kylo. But sadly, Culture Brain never made a sequel to this game, so this is the final chapter. Video was able to help you finally beat the Magic of Scheherazade and bring peace to the world of ancient Arabia. If it did, make sure to give it a like